Step away from her. I'm only going to say this once. Marcus Brennan's voice cut through the classroom like a blade. 22 children froze. The teacher's face went white. Through the window behind him, 150 motorcycles lined the street. 150 iron wolves watching, waiting. His 7-year-old daughter was trembling in the corner, tears streaming down her face. 3 months of terror, 3 months of silence, 3 months of a monster hiding behind a teacher's smile. Today it ended. What happened in the next 48 hours would bring the FBI to this small Tennessee town and send shockwaves across the nation. Subscribe now, comment your city, watch how far this story travels. Marcus woke up at 6:47 to the sound of crying. Not loud crying, the quiet kind. The kind a child makes when she's trying not to be heard. He threw off his blanket and moved down the hallway fast. Lily's door was cracked open. He pushed it wider. His daughter sat on the edge of her bed, hugging her stuffed rabbit so tight its head bent sideways. Her shoulders shook. Her face was wet. Lily, baby, what happened? She looked up. Her eyes went wide. Scared, like she'd been caught doing something wrong. Nothing, Daddy. Bad dream. Marcus crossed the room and knelt in front of her. He took her small hands in his. They were ice cold. Same dream as last night. She nodded, and the night before, another nod. Sweetheart, you've had bad dreams every night this week. That's not normal. Talk to me. Lily pulled her hands away. She wouldn't look at him. I'm fine, Daddy. I'm just tired. Marcus felt something twist in his gut. 3 months. 3 months of watching his daughter disappear piece by piece. 3 months of one-word answers and empty eyes and a smile that never reached her face anymore. He'd tried everything. Ice cream, movie nights, long rides through the countryside on his motorcycle, her little arms wrapped around his waist, the wind in her hair. Nothing worked. Something was breaking his little girl, and she wouldn't tell him what. Lily, is it a school day? The question hit him like a punch. She already knew the answer. She asked anyway, hoping he'd say no. Yeah, baby, it's Tuesday. Her whole body tensed, just for a second. Then she took a breath and stood up. Okay, I'll get dressed. She walked past him toward her closet, small, mechanical, like a soldier heading to a war she knew she couldn't win. Marcus stayed on his knees watching her go. What the hell was happening to his daughter? Breakfast was a disaster. Lily sat at the kitchen table pushing Cheerios around her bowl. She hadn't taken a single bite in 10 minutes. Marcus sat across from her, pretending to read the newspaper, actually watching her over the top of the page. She looked smaller than usual, hunched, like she was trying to fold herself into nothing. You gonna eat that or just torture it? Lily didn't smile. I'm not hungry. You weren't hungry yesterday either, or the day before. I'm fine, Daddy. You keep saying that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Nothing, not even a flicker. The Princess Bride reference used to make her giggle. Now it just bounced off her like she hadn't heard it. Marcus put down the paper. Lily, look at me. She looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed, dark circles underneath. She looked like she hadn't really slept in weeks. I talked to your Aunt Sarah last night, Marcus said. She's worried about you too. She says you barely talked when she picked you up from school on Friday. I was tired. You're always tired now, that's the problem. Lily's jaw tightened. I said, I'm fine. And I said, I don't believe you. Silence. Lily stared at her cereal. Marcus stared at his daughter. Finally, she whispered, can we just go? I don't want to be late. That was new. Usually she dragged her feet, finding any excuse to delay leaving the house. Now she wanted to go early. No, that wasn't it. She wanted to end this conversation. She wanted to escape his questions. Marcus grabbed his keys. Fine, let's go. The drive took 12 minutes. 12 minutes of silence. 12 minutes of Lily staring out the window like she was memorizing the trees, the houses, the clouds. Like she might never see them again. Marcus gripped the steering wheel and tried to think. He'd talked to her teacher at the parent conference 2 months ago, Mrs. Victoria Crane. 15 years of teaching experience. Awards on her wall. A smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Lily is a bit quiet, Mrs. Crane had said. She doesn't participate much. Seems withdrawn. Marcus had mentioned the changes at home. The nightmares, the loss of appetite, the way Lily had stopped drawing, stopped laughing, stopped being herself. Mrs. Crane had waved it off. Adjustment period. Some children take longer to adapt to structure. Give it time, Mr. Brennan. I'm sure she'll come around. 2 months later, Lily hadn't come around. She'd gotten worse. Marcus pulled into the school drop-off lane. Other kids were jumping out of cars, running toward the building, excited to see friends, laughing, shouting, being kids. Lily sat frozen in her seat. We're here, baby. I know. You need to go inside. I know. She didn't move. Marcus turned off the engine. Screw the drop-off lane. Let them honk. Lily, what's going on? And don't say fine, don't say nothing. Tell me the truth. Lily's hands twisted in her lap. Her lower lip trembled. Daddy, She stopped, swallowed, started again. I can't. Can't what? Tell you. Why not? Lily looked at him, and in that moment, Marcus saw something that made his blood run cold. Terror. Sheer absolute terror. Because she said if I told anyone, they would take me away from you. Marcus stopped breathing. What? Who said that? Lily's eyes filled with tears. I can't, Daddy. I can't tell you. Please don't make me. Please. Lily. She said bikers are bad people. She said the police would believe her and not you. She said I'd have to go live with strangers and never see you again. The words tumbled out now fast and desperate. And I don't want that, Daddy. I don't want it to lose you, so I didn't tell anyone. I didn't say anything. She broke off sobbing. Marcus sat there paralyzed. His mind was spinning. Someone had been threatening his daughter. Someone had been using his club, his identity, his entire life as a weapon against his own child. And that someone was at this school. He reached over and unbuckled Lily's seatbelt, pulled her across the console and into his lap, held her while she cried. Lily, listen to me. His voice was shaking. He couldn't help it. Nobody is taking you away from me. Nobody. Not the police, not the courts, not anyone. You are my daughter, mine. And nothing in this world will ever change that. But she said, I don't care what she said. She's wrong. She's lying to you. Marcus pulled back and looked into his daughter's eyes. Now I need you to tell me who. Who said these things to you? Lily hesitated. The fear was still there, but something else was there too. Hope. Fragile and uncertain, but hope. Mrs. Crane, she whispered, my teacher. The next 15 minutes broke Marcus's heart. He drove to a parking lot 2 blocks from the school, killed the engine, and listened while his 7-year-old daughter described 3 months of psychological torture. It had started on the first day of school. Mrs. Crane had called Lily to the board to solve a simple addition problem. Lily got nervous, made a mistake, and Mrs. Crane laughed. Not a kind laugh, a cruel one, a laugh designed to humiliate. Well, class, what can we expect? Look at who her father is. I'm sure he didn't teach her anything useful, unless you count how to steal motorcycles. The other kids had laughed too, because their teacher was laughing, because they didn't know any better. Lily had wanted to disappear. It got worse from there. Every day Mrs. Crane found new ways to break her down, called her stupid in front of the class, mocked her drawings, criticized her handwriting, her reading, her everything. When Lily tried to answer questions, Mrs. Crane cut her off. Don't bother. We all know you don't have anything intelligent to say. When Lily stayed quiet, Mrs. Crane called on her anyway. What's wrong? Lily Cat got your tongue, or are you just too slow to keep up? And when Lily finally worked up the courage to tell another teacher, Mrs. Crane found out. The next day, she kept Lily after class. I heard you've been telling lies about me, Mrs. Crane said. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. That made it worse. That was a very foolish thing to do, Lily. Very foolish. I wasn't lying. Do you know what happens to children whose parents are criminals? Do you know what happens when the police find out a child isn't being raised properly? Lily didn't answer. They take those children away. They put them in foster homes with strangers, and they never see their parents again. Mrs. Crane leaned closer. Your father is a biker. Everyone knows what that means. If I tell the police that you're troubled, that you're lying, that you're being raised in an unsafe environment, who do you think they'll believe, me or him? Lily started crying. So here's what's going to happen, Mrs. Crane continued. You're going to go back to class. You're going to keep your mouth shut. And if you ever say another word about me to anyone at all, I will make one phone call and you will lose your father forever. Do you understand? Lily understood. She hadn't said a word since. Marcus sat in his truck, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. His daughter was still talking, still pouring out 3 months of pain. And with every word, something inside him was changing, hardening, becoming something cold and sharp and dangerous. She makes me stand in the corner when I get answers wrong, Lily said. Sometimes for the whole class, and she tells the other kids not to talk to me because stupidity is contagious. Marcus's jaw tightened. And sometimes she takes my lunch and throws it away. She says I don't deserve to eat because I didn't work hard enough. And I'm so hungry, Daddy. I'm so hungry all the time, but I can't tell you because... Lily, she stopped. Marcus turned to face her. His eyes were wet. He didn't care. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry I didn't see it. I'm so sorry I didn't know. It's not your fault, Daddy. I didn't tell you. You were scared. That's not your fault either. He pulled her close. But I know now. And I promise you, baby girl, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make it stop. How? Good question. How did you fight someone who hid behind credentials and tenure and a system designed to protect adults instead of children? Marcus didn't have all the answers yet. But he knew one thing for certain. Victoria Crane had made a mistake. She'd assumed that because Marcus was a biker, because he had tattoos and a leather jacket and a club patch on his back, that he was stupid, that he would react with his fists, that he would give her exactly what she needed to destroy him. She was wrong. Marcus Brennan hadn't survived 2 tours in Afghanistan, built a business from nothing, and raised a daughter alone by being stupid. He'd done it by being smart, by being patient, by knowing when to fight and when to plan. Right now it was time to plan. Lily, I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to be brave for just a little bit longer. Can you do that? She nodded. I'm going to call Aunt Sarah. She's going to pick you up and take you to her house. You're not going to school today. Lily's eyes went wide. Really? Really? You're going to eat ice cream and watch movies and not think about Mrs. Crane for the rest of the day? Okay, she paused. Daddy, yeah. Are you going to yell at her? Marcus thought about it. Yelling would feel good. It would feel really good. But it wouldn't be enough. No, baby. I'm going to do something better. What? Marcus looked at the school in the distance, at the building where his daughter had suffered in silence, at the classroom where a monster wore a teacher's smile. I'm going to make sure she never hurts another kid again. Sarah arrived in 15 minutes. She pulled up next to Marcus's truck, took one look at Lily's tear-stained face, and her expression shifted from confusion to cold fury. What happened? I'll explain later. Right now, I need you to take her. Sarah didn't argue. She just nodded and helped Lily into her car. Before they left, Lily rolled down the window. Daddy. Yeah, baby girl. I love you. Marcus felt his throat tighten. I love you too, more than anything. He watched them drive away. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Jake answered on the first ring. Stone, what's up, brother? I need you at the shop now. Bring Ghost and Hammer. Tell them it's about kids. Silence in the Iron Wolves. About kids meant one thing, something serious, something that required the club's full attention. We'll be there in 20. Marcus ended the call and started his truck. Time to go to war. Jake Viper Morrison was waiting when Marcus arrived at Brennan Custom Cycles. So was Derek Ghost Williams and Tommy Hammer Reeves, 3 of the most trusted men in the Iron Wolves. 3 men who would ride through hell for a brother, and more importantly, 3 men who would do anything to protect a child. Talk, Jake said. Marcus told them everything. He told them about Lily's nightmares, about her fear, about the threats Mrs. Crane had made, about the months of psychological torture his daughter had endured in silence. When he finished, the room was quiet. Ghost broke the silence first. This teacher, she's been doing this for 15 years. That's what they told me at the parent conference. 15 years of teaching, awards on her wall, spotless record. Spotless record means nobody's ever caught her, Hammer growled. Doesn't mean she hasn't done this before. Exactly what I'm thinking. Jake leaned forward. So what's the play? First, we document everything. I need to get Lily's story on video, something official, something a lawyer can use. I know a family lawyer in Nashville, Ghost said. My cousin Michelle, she handles education cases, fights for kids against schools all the time. Call her. Ghost pulled out his phone and stepped away. What else? Jake asked. I need to find out if there are other kids, other victims. If Mrs. Crane has been doing this for 15 years, Lily's not the first. How do we find them? We start with the parents we know, the ones with kids in Lily's class. Marcus pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. I've met a few at school events, Tommy Peterson's dem, Jessica Warren's mother, Miguel Santos's grandmother. You think they'll talk? I think if their kids are going through what Lily went through, they'll be desperate to tell someone. Marcus paused. But we have to be careful. If Mrs. Crane finds out we're digging, she might try to cover her tracks. Hammer cracked his knuckles. Or we could just pay her a visit. Let her know what happens to people who mess with our kids. No, Marcus shook his head. That's what she wants. That's what she's counting on. One wrong move and she'll have the police on us. She'll have evidence that we're dangerous, that Lily's being raised in an unsafe environment, that she was right all along. So we just let her get away with it. Hell no, we take her down. But we do it smart. We do it legal. We build a case so strong that nobody can ignore it. Jake nodded slowly. And if the legal way doesn't work? Marcus looked at his brothers, at the men who had stood beside him through war, through loss, through everything life had thrown at them. Then we find another way. Ghost came back with news. Michelle's on board. She's driving down from Nashville. Should be here by 4. Good. But there's something else. Ghost's face was grim. I made some calls, talked to a buddy who works at the county school board, asked him about Victoria Crane. And she's got a file, a thick one, complaints going back at least 10 years, parents saying she was cruel to their kids, teachers saying she was inappropriate, even a few formal grievances. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. 10 years of complaints and she's still teaching. Apparently nobody could make anything stick. The complaints were always investigated and dismissed. Parents were told they were overreacting. Teachers who spoke up got transferred to other schools. Ghost shook his head. And guess who signed off on every investigation? Who grants? Principal Robert Hayes. He's been protecting her the whole time. The room went quiet. Marcus processed this information. Victoria Crane wasn't just a single bad teacher. She was part of a system that protected abusers and silenced victims, a system that had been operating for over a decade. There's more, Ghost said. About 2 years ago, a kid in her class, he tried to hurt himself. Marcus's blood went cold. What? 8 years old, started cutting himself with scissors. Said he was white and needed to be punished. Ghost's voice was tight. His parents pulled him out of school, filed a complaint. Nothing happened. The family moved away a few months later. Marcus thought of Lily, of her saying, I'm stupid and I'm worthless, of her apologizing for everything, for existing, for taking up space. How close had she been to that same breaking point? Who else knows about this? Jake asked. Nobody. The school buried it. The family was too traumatized to fight. Ghost looked at Marcus. But if we can find them, if we can get them to talk, then we have proof that this wasn't just about Lily. This is a pattern, a history of abuse that the school covered up. Marcus stood up. Find that family, whatever it takes, and keep digging. There have to be others. 10 years of complaints don't come from nowhere. What about you? I'm going to make some calls of my own. The next 3 hours changed everything. Marcus called every parent he could reach. He kept his voice calm, asked casual questions, and listened. What he heard made his blood boil. Tommy Peterson's father said his son had been wetting the bed for months. Tommy wouldn't say why, but every night he'd wake up screaming about the mean lady. Jessica Warren's mother said her daughter had stopped eating. Lost 8 pounds since school started. The doctor couldn't find anything wrong. And Miguel Santos's grandmother, she broke down crying on the phone. She calls him anchor baby, Mrs. Santos said through tears. He doesn't know what it means, but he knows it's bad. He asked me if it's true that he doesn't belong here. He's 7 years old, 7, and he thinks he doesn't deserve to be in this country. Marcus gripped the phone so hard his hands shook. Did you complain to the school? Of course I did. I went to the principal himself, Mr. Hayes, Mrs. Santos's voice turned bitter. He told me Miguel was sensitive. He said Mrs. Crane was just trying to prepare him for the real world. He said maybe I should focus on teaching Miguel to be less emotional. And that was it. What else could I do? I'm just an old woman. I don't have money for lawyers. I don't have connections. Mrs. Crane has been teaching for 15 years. Who would believe me over her? I believe you, Marcus said, and I'm going to do something about it. What can you do? More than you think. Mrs. Santos, I need you to do something for me. Can you write down everything Miguel has told you, every cruel thing Mrs. Crane has said to him, every incident you remember? Yes, I can do that. Good, and don't tell anyone else. Not yet. We're building a case and we can't let the school know we're coming. Mr. Brennan, why are you doing this? You don't know us. Marcus thought about Lily, about the fear in her eyes, about the months she'd suffered alone because a monster convinced her that nobody would believe her. Because my daughter is in that classroom too, and I'm not going to let this happen to any more kids. Michelle Chen arrived at 4:15. She was exactly what Ghost had promised, sharp, professional, and absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting children. I've reviewed the information you sent, she said, setting her briefcase on Marcus's desk. This is bad, really bad, but it's also exactly the kind of case I specialize in. Can we win? Define win. Mrs. Crane loses her job, her license, she never teaches again. Michelle nodded slowly. That's possible, but it won't be easy. She has tenure, she has the protection of the administration, and she has 15 years of what looks like a clean record. What looks like? You said complaints were buried. They were, but buried isn't the same as gone. Records exist. People remember. If we can find the paper trail, if we can get enough victims to come forward, Michelle smiled grimly, then we have a chance. What do we need? First, I need to interview Lily, get her testimony on record. Then I need to talk to the other parents you've identified, build a coalition. And then we go to the school board. We present our evidence. We demand accountability. Michelle paused. But Marcus, I have to warn you, this could get ugly. Mrs. Crane isn't going to go quietly, and neither is Hayes. They're going to fight back. They're going to attack your credibility, your background, your fitness as a parent. Let them try. I'm serious. The motorcycle club, your tattoos, I know exactly what I look like. Marcus cut her off. And I know exactly what they're going to say. They're going to call me a criminal, a thug, a bad father who raised a troubled child. They're going to use every stereotype they can think of to make me look like the villain. And I don't care, because I'm not the one who's been terrorizing children for 15 years. I'm not the one who's been covering up abuse. I'm not the one who threatened a 7-year-old girl and told her she'd lose her father if she spoke up. Marcus leaned forward. They want to make this about me, fine. Let them try. But when the truth comes out, when people see what really happened in that classroom, nobody's going to care about my tattoos or my motorcycle. They're going to care about the children who were hurt, and they're going to want justice. Michelle studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. Okay, let's get to work. Lily's interview took 2 hours. Michelle was gentle but thorough. She asked questions Marcus hadn't thought to ask, drew out details that painted a picture of systematic, calculated abuse. When it was over, Michelle turned off the recorder and looked at Marcus. This is worse than I thought. How so, Mrs. Crane isn't just cruel, she's strategic. She targets specific children, kids whose parents are immigrants or low income or unconventional, kids whose families she thinks won't fight back because they don't have power. Exactly. She's a predator, and predators are smart. They choose victims who are vulnerable, who can be isolated, who can be silenced. Marcus looked at his daughter, who was curled up on the couch with her stuffed rabbit, exhausted, but calmer than she'd been in months. She picked the wrong family. Yes, she did. Michelle stood up. I'm going to start reaching out to the other parents tonight. We'll set up a meeting. Get everyone on the same page. How long before we can move? A week, maybe 2. We need to gather enough evidence to make our case undeniable. That's too long. Mrs. Crane is still in that classroom. Other kids are still suffering. I know, but if we move too fast, if we don't have enough, they'll shut us down. They'll call it a witch hunt. They'll circle the wagons and protect their own. Michelle put a hand on Marcus's arm. I want this woman gone as much as you do, but we have to be smart about it. Marcus took a deep breath. Smart, patient, strategic. Everything in him wanted to ride to that school right now. Walk into that classroom. Tell Victoria Crane exactly what he thought of adults who tortured children. But that wouldn't help Lily. It wouldn't help the other kids. It would just give Mrs. Crane exactly what she needed to destroy him. 1 week, he said finally, but not a day more. Deal. That night, Marcus got a phone call that changed everything. It was Mrs. Santos, and she was crying. Mr. Brennan, something happened. Something bad. Marcus sat up straight. What is it? It's Miguel. Mrs. Crane found out that I called you. I don't know how, but she found out. And Mrs. Santos's voice broke. She told Miguel that his grandmother was a liar, that she was trying to get him in trouble. She said he was going to be sent back to Mexico, that he'd never see his family again. Marcus felt ice spreading through his veins. Where is Miguel now? He's here, but he won't stop crying. He won't eat. He keeps saying he's sorry, that he didn't mean to cause trouble, that he'll be good if they just don't send him away. Mrs. Santos sobbed. He's 7 years old, Mr. Brennan. 7 years old, and he thinks his life is over. Marcus stood up. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. Mrs. Santos, I need you to listen to me. Miguel is safe. Nobody is sending him anywhere, I promise you. But Mrs. Crane said, Mrs. Crane is a liar. She's been lying to children for 15 years to keep them scared and silent. But that ends now. Tonight. What are you going to do? Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the darkness. Something I should have done the moment I found out the truth. He hung up and called Jake. Brother, we're moving up the timeline. How far up? Tomorrow morning. I want every brother we can reach at that school by 8 a.m. Silence. Then Jake's voice, cold and hard. You got it. What's the play? We're going to pay Victoria Crane a visit, and we're going to make sure the whole world is watching. They gathered at dawn. Not just Jake and Ghost and Hammer, everyone. Every iron wolf within 100 miles who could make it on short notice. 153 motorcycles lined up outside Brennan Custom Cycles. 153 brothers and sisters ready to ride. Marcus stood in front of them, the rising sun at his back. You all know why we're here. You know what's been happening at that school. You know what that woman has done to our children. Nods, growls of anger, fists clenched. Today, we're going to end it. But I need to be clear about something. We're not going there to fight. We're not going there to threaten. We're going there to stand up, to watch, to witness. Why? Someone called out. Why not just give her what she deserves? Because that's what she wants. She wants us to be the monsters she's convinced everyone we are. She wants us to give her an excuse to play the victim, to hide behind the police, to make this about us instead of about what she did to those kids. Marcus looked out at the crowd. We're not going to give her that satisfaction. We're going to stand there peaceful and silent, and we're going to show the whole world who the real monster is. Ghost stepped forward. What about the cops? They'll come. Let them. We're not breaking any laws. We're exercising our right to peacefully assemble. Marcus paused. And we're going to have cameras. Lots of cameras. Everything that happens today is going on the record. Hammer grinned. My kid's got one of those GoPros. Gets real good footage. Perfect. Anyone else with cameras, phones, anything that records, bring it. I want every angle covered. Jake walked up beside Marcus. What's the end game, brother? I'm going into that school. I'm going to that classroom. And I'm taking my daughter out of Victoria Crane's custody. permanently, publicly, in front of God and everyone. And if they try to stop you, Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it, then they can explain to the cameras why they're protecting a child abuser instead of the children. The ride to Pinewood Elementary was something Marcus would never forget. 153 motorcycles moving in perfect formation down the main street of Oakdale. The thunder of engines shook windows. People came out of their houses to stare. Cars pulled over to let them pass. At the head of the line, Marcus rode alone. He thought about Lily, about the fear in her eyes, about the months she'd spent believing she was worthless, stupid, unlovable. He thought about Miguel crying himself to sleep because a monster told him he didn't belong in his own country. He thought about Tommy and Jessica and all the other kids whose names he didn't even know yet. Kids who were suffering right now in that building, in that classroom, at the hands of a woman who should have been protecting them. No more. Today it ended. They reached the school at 7:52. Marcus pulled into the parking lot first. The others followed, lining up along the edge of the property. Not on school grounds. On the public street, legal, legitimate. The thunder of engines died. Silence fell. 153 bikers stood beside their machines, arms crossed. Watching, waiting. It took exactly 4 minutes for Principal Robert Hayes to come running out of the building. His face was pale. His eyes were wild. He stopped 20 feet from Marcus and pointed a shaking finger. "What is this? What do you think you're doing?" "Standing," Marcus said calmly. "You're intimidating students and staff. This is harassment. I'm calling the police." "Go ahead." "We'll wait." Hayes stared at him, sputtered, looked at the wall of bikers behind Marcus. You can't do this. We're on public property. We're not threatening anyone. We're not blocking access to the school." Marcus took a step forward. "We're just watching." "Is that a problem, Principal Hayes?" "I don't know what you think you're going to accomplish. I think I'm going to walk into there at the school. I think I'm going to go to room 107. And I think I'm going to remove my daughter from the care of a woman who has been emotionally abusing her for 3 months." Marcus's voice was quiet, controlled, absolutely deadly. "And I think if you try to stop me, the whole world is going to see exactly what kind of man you are." Hayes's face went from pale to red. "I'll have you arrested." "For what? Picking up my child from school?" Marcus gestured at the crowd that was already gathering on the sidewalk. Parents dropping off kids who had stopped to watch. Neighbors who'd heard the motorcycles. A news van that had just pulled up at the corner. "Go ahead. Call the cops. Explain to them why exercising my parental rights is a crime. I'm sure the cameras will love that." Hayes looked at the news van, at the phones being held up, at the crowd that was growing by the minute. He said nothing. Marcus walked past him toward the school. The hallway was empty. Most kids were already in their classrooms. A few stragglers hurried past Marcus, staring at him with wide eyes. He didn't slow down. Room 107 was at the end of the hall. The door was closed. Through the window, Marcus could see Mrs. Crane standing at the front of the room writing something on the whiteboard. And there in the third row sat Lily. His daughter looked small, hunched. Her eyes were fixed on her desk. Marcus took a breath, steadied himself. Then he opened the door. Every head in the room turned. Mrs. Crane spun around, the marker still in her hand. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Mrs. Crane's expression shifted. Recognition, surprise, and something else, a flicker of fear that she quickly tried to hide behind a professional smile. "Mr. Brennan, what an unexpected—" "Lily, come here." His voice cut through the room like a knife. Lily looked up. Her eyes went wide. For a second, she seemed frozen, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Then she scrambled out of her chair and ran. She crashed into Marcus's legs, wrapping her arms around him, burying her face in his jeans. Marcus put his hand on her head, felt her trembling. "It's okay, baby," he said softly. "I've got you." "Daddy," Lily's voice was muffled. "Daddy, you came. I told you I would." "Mr. Brennan," Mrs. Crane's voice was sharp. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is highly inappropriate. You can't just walk into my classroom and—" "Step away from her." Mrs. Crane stopped mid-sentence. Marcus looked up, looked directly into her eyes. "I said step away from my daughter. I'm only going to say this once." The classroom was dead silent. 22 children stared. Mrs. Crane's face went from pink to white. I don't know what Lily has told you, she said, her voice colder now. But I can assure you that whatever it is, she's exaggerating. Children sometimes... She told me everything. Marcus's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. She told me about the names you called her, the threats you made, the way you've been terrorizing her for 3 months. That's absurd. I would never. She told me about the other kids too, Tommy, Jessica, Miguel. Marcus watched the color drain from Mrs. Crane's face. She told me how you pick the ones you think can't fight back, the ones whose parents are poor or immigrants or unconventional. Those are lies, filthy lies from a disturbed child who, I've talked to their parents, Mrs. Crane. I've heard their stories. They match Lily's, every single one. Marcus took a step forward and Mrs. Crane took a step back. Did you really think you could get away with this forever? Did you really think nobody would ever find out? Mrs. Crane's eyes darted to the window, to the crowd outside, to the phones that were pressing against the glass recording everything. You can't prove anything, she hissed. I don't have to. The children will tell their own stories. The parents will back them up. And by tomorrow morning, every news outlet in the state will have the whole ugly truth. Marcus lifted Lily into his arms. Your career is over, Mrs. Crane. The only question is whether you go quietly or whether you make this harder on yourself than it needs to be. For a long moment, Mrs. Crane just stared at him. Then her face twisted with rage. You think you can threaten me? You think anyone will believe a biker over a teacher with 15 years of service? I'll have you arrested. I'll have you thrown in jail. I'll make sure that little brat ends up in foster care where she belongs. The words echoed through the silent classroom, and that's when Marcus smiled. Thank you, he said. What? I said thank you for saying all that in front of 22 witnesses. He nodded toward the window, and about 50 more outside with cameras. Mrs. Crane's face went white. She turned toward the window, saw the wall of phones pressed against the glass, saw the news crew that was filming through the doorway, saw the crowd of parents and bikers and neighbors who had heard every single word. No, she whispered. No, that's not, I didn't mean, but it was too late. She just confessed to everything. On camera, in front of the world. Marcus turned and walked out of the classroom, Lily in his arms, his brothers at his back. Behind him, Victoria Crane's world collapsed. The parking lot was chaos. Police cars, news vans, parents shouting questions, children crying, Hayes trying to explain to a reporter why he'd protected an abusive teacher for 15 years. Marcus walked through it all like a babe moving through a dream. He reached his truck, put Lily in the passenger seat, knelt down so their eyes were level. You okay, baby girl? Lily looked at him. For the first time in months, there was something in her eyes that looked like peace. I'm okay, Daddy, she paused. Is it over? Marcus looked back at the school, at the cameras, at the chaos. No, sweetheart, he said. It's just beginning. But for the first time in 3 months, that didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a promise. The news spread like wildfire. By noon, Marcus's phone had rung 47 times. Reporters, parents, strangers who had seen the video online. Everyone wanted to talk. Everyone wanted answers. Marcus ignored them all. He sat in his living room with Lily curled up against his side, watching cartoons like nothing had happened. She hadn't let go of his hand since they left the school. Every few minutes, she'd look up at him like she needed to make sure he was still there. Daddy. Yeah, baby girl. Am I going to get in trouble? Marcus felt his heart crack. After everything she'd been through, after everything that woman had done to her, Lily was still worried about being punished. No, sweetheart, you're not in trouble. You didn't do anything wrong. But Mrs. Crane said, Mrs. Crane is a liar. Remember, everything she told you was a lie. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, she told me I was stupid. Every day. She said I was the dumbest kid she'd ever taught. That's not true. She said my mom left because I was too much trouble. She said that's why I only have you. Marcus stopped breathing. Elena hadn't left. Elena had died. A drunk driver had run a red light and taken her from them when Lily was barely 3 years old. And Mrs. Crane had twisted that tragedy into a weapon. Lily, look at me. His daughter looked up. Your mom didn't leave. She died. You know that. We've talked about it. I know, but Lily's eyes filled with tears. Mrs. Crane said you probably made that up. She said bad dads always lie to their kids. She said my mom probably just didn't want me. Marcus pulled Lily into his lap and held her tight. He could feel her small body shaking. Your mother loved you more than anything in this world. She died holding your picture. The last word she ever said was your name. His voice cracked. And if she were here right now, she would be so proud of how brave you've been. Lily buried her face in his chest. I miss her, Daddy. I know, baby. I miss her too. They sat like that for a long time, father and daughter, holding each other, healing. The phone rang again. Marcus let it go to voicemail. Some things were more important than the outside world. Jake showed up at 3 o'clock. He didn't knock, just walked in like he owned the place. That was Jake. 20 years of friendship meant certain boundaries didn't exist anymore. You seen the news? Marcus shook his head. Been avoiding it. You might want to take a look. Jake pulled out his phone and handed it over. On the screen was a news clip. The headline read, Biker Gang Storms Local Elementary School. Marcus watched the video. It showed his brothers lined up outside Pinewood Elementary. It showed him walking into the building. It showed Principal Hayes sputtering at reporters. And then it showed something else. A woman being interviewed. Blonde hair. Perfect makeup. Tears streaming down her face. Mrs. Crane, I've dedicated my life to these children, she was saying, her voice trembling. 15 years of service. And now I'm being attacked by a violent motorcycle gang because I tried to discipline a troubled student. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. She's playing the victim. Gets worse. Jake reached over and skipped ahead in the video. Watch. The screen changed to show a man in a suit standing behind a podium. The banner at the bottom identified him as Superintendent David Wheeler. We take all allegations seriously, Wheeler was saying. However, based on my conversations with Principal Hayes and Mrs. Crane, I'm confident that this is a misunderstanding. Mrs. Crane is an exemplary educator with an impeccable record. We will not allow her reputation to be destroyed by unsubstantiated accusations from a certain element of our community. Marcus stared at the screen. Certain element. Yeah, he's talking about you, about us. Jake took his phone back. They're spinning this, brother, making it about the club instead of about what she did. Well, can they do that? They're already doing it. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see a news van parked across the street. They'd been there since noon, waiting for him to come out. What's Michelle saying? She's on her way over. She's got news. Good news or bad news? Jake hesitated. Both. Michelle arrived 20 minutes later. She walked in with her briefcase in one hand and a thick folder in the other. Her face was tight. We have a problem. I saw the news. It's worse than the news. Michelle sat down at the kitchen table and opened the folder. I got a call from the school district's lawyer an hour ago. They're threatening to file a restraining order against you. For what? Trespassing, intimidation, creating a hostile environment. Michelle pulled out a document. They're claiming your presence at the school this morning constituted harassment of Mrs. Crane and endangered the students. I walked into a classroom and picked up my daughter. That's it. I know, but they have 22 children who witnessed you confronting their teacher, and they have video of 153 motorcycles parked outside the school. Michelle paused. They're going to argue that you organized an intimidation campaign. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. That's its point. We didn't threaten anyone. You didn't have to. 153 bikers is a threat by itself. Michelle held up her hand before he could argue. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying it's how they're going to spin it. So what do? We fight, but we need to be smart about it. Michelle pulled out another document. This is the good news. I've been in contact with 8 families, 8 sets of parents whose children were in Mrs. Crane's classes over the past 5 years. All of them have stories similar to Lily's. 8 families. 8 that I've found so far. There could be more. Michelle looked at Marcus. One of them is willing to go public. A woman named Rosa Gutierrez. Her son was in Mrs. Crane's class 3 years ago. He had a breakdown, tried to hurt himself with scissors. They pulled him out of school and moved to another town. Marcus remembered what Ghost had told him. the 8-year-old who started cutting himself. She's willing to talk. More than willing, she's been waiting for this moment for 3 years. Michelle closed the folder. We're building a case, Marcus, a real one. But I need you to stay out of the spotlight until we're ready. Stay out of the spotlight, my face is all over the news. I know, that's why you need to lie low. No more confrontations. No more shows of force. Let me handle the legal side while you take care of Lily. Marcus didn't like it. Every instinct in his body was screaming at him to fight, to push back, to make sure everyone knew the truth. But Michelle was right. This wasn't a war he could win with muscle. This was a war of perception, of narrative, of who could tell the better story. And right now, Mrs. Crane was winning. Fine, he said. I'll stay out of it, for now. Thank you. Michelle stood up. I'll be in touch tomorrow. We're meeting with Rosa Gutierrez in the morning. I'd like you to be there. I'll be there. After she left, Jake looked at Marcus. You okay, brother? No. Marcus walked back to the window. The news van was still there. I pulled Lily out of that classroom. I thought that was the end of it. But it's just getting started, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And if I lose, Marcus's voice was quiet. If they spin this the right way, if they make me look like the bad guy, I could lose her. I could actually lose my daughter. Jake walked over and put a hand on his shoulder. You're not going to lose her. You've got us. You've got Michelle. You've got the truth on your side. The truth doesn't always win. No, it doesn't. Jake's grip tightened. But we're not fighting for the truth. We're fighting for Lily. And that's a fight we're not going to lose. Marcus wanted to believe him. He really did. But as he stood there watching the news van, watching the reporters wait for him, like vultures circling a dying animal, he couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The next morning, Marcus drove to Nashville. Michelle's office was on the 3rd floor of a glass building downtown. Rosa Gutierrez was already there when he arrived. She was a small woman, maybe 40, with dark hair streaked with gray. Her hands shook when she shook Marcus's hand. Thank you for coming, she said. I've been waiting a long time to tell this story. Thank you for being willing to share it. They sat down. Michelle started the recorder. Rosa, tell us what happened to your son. Rosa took a deep breath. His name is Carlos. He was 8 years old when he had Mrs. Crane. He was such a happy boy before. Always smiling. Always asking questions. Her voice wavered. By October, he stopped smiling. By November, he stopped eating. By December, she couldn't continue. Take your time, Michelle said gently. Rosa wiped her eyes. I found him in the bathroom with scissors. He was cutting his arms. Not deep, not dangerous, but he was hurting himself. My baby was hurting himself. What did he say when you asked him why? He said he was bad. He said Mrs. Crane told him he was bad, that he was worthless, that he didn't deserve to be happy. He said, Rosa's voice broke. He said he wanted to disappear so he wouldn't bother anyone anymore. Marcus felt sick. He thought of Lily, of the words she'd whispered this morning. I'm stupid. I'm worthless. How close had his daughter been to that same breaking point? What did you do? Michelle asked. I pulled him out of school immediately. I went to Principal Hayes. I demanded answers. And what did he say? Rosa's expression hardened. He said Carlos was sensitive. He said Mrs. Crane was just trying to teach him discipline. He said maybe the problem was at home. She laughed bitterly. At home. As if I was the one telling my son he was worthless. Did you file a formal complaint? I tried. I went to the school board. I went to the superintendent. I even went to the police. Rosa shook her head. Nobody listened. They all said the same thing. Mrs. Crane has been teaching for 15 years. She has an excellent record. There must be some misunderstanding. So what happened? We moved, left Oakdale, started over in a new town. Rosa looked at Marcus. Carlos is 11 now. He's better. Not healed. I don't think he'll ever fully heal. But better. He goes to therapy twice a week. He has friends. He's learning to trust adults again. I'm glad he's doing better. He is, but Mr. Brennan... Rosa leaned forward. When I saw the news yesterday, when I saw you walk into that school and confront that woman, I cried. For the first time in 3 years, I cried. Because finally, someone was fighting back. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. Why didn't you fight back then? Rosa's eyes filled with tears. Because I was scared. Because I was alone. Because they made me feel like I was crazy, like I was imagining things, like I was the problem. She wiped her face. But I'm not scared anymore. And I'm not alone anymore. She reached across the table and took Marcus's hand. Tell me what you need me to do. I'll do anything. I'll testify. I'll go on TV. I'll stand in front of that school and tell the whole world what Victoria Crane did to my son. Marcus looked at Michelle. Can we use her testimony? Absolutely. Rosa's story establishes a pattern of behavior. It proves this wasn't a one-time incident. Michelle turned to Rosa. Are you sure you're ready for this? Once we go public, there's no going back. They'll attack you. They'll attack Carlos. They'll try to discredit everything you say. Rosa's jaw set. Let them try. The meeting lasted 2 hours. By the end, Michelle had Rosa's full testimony recorded. Dates, times, specific incidents. A paper trail of complaints that had been ignored or buried. Medical records showing Carlos's psychological treatment. It was damning. But as Marcus drove home, he couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't enough. Mrs. Crane had been doing this for 15 years. 15 years of destroyed children, broken families, buried complaints. And through it all, the system had protected her. What made her so untouchable? The answer came that night. Ghost called at 11 o'clock. Stone, you need to hear this. What is it? I've been digging into Hayes, into Crane, into the whole damn system. Ghost's voice was tight. There's a reason nobody could touch her. Tell me. Victoria Crane isn't just a teacher. She's David Wheeler's sister-in-law. Marcus went cold. Wheeler. The superintendent. Yeah, Crane is married to his brother, has been for 20 years. Ghost paused. Every complaint that was ever filed against her went through Wheeler's office. Every investigation was conducted by people who reported to Wheeler. Every time someone tried to blow the whistle, Wheeler made it disappear. He's been protecting her. More than protecting, he's been actively covering up. I found emails, Stone. Emails between Wheeler and Hayes discussing how to handle problem parents, how to discredit complainers, how to make sure nobody believed anyone who spoke up. Marcus sat down heavily. His mind was racing. This wasn't just one bad teacher. This was a conspiracy, a cover-up that went all the way to the top of the school district. Can you prove it? I've got copies of everything, emails, memos, internal documents. It's all there, brother. The whole rotten system. How did you get this? Ghost was quiet for a moment. You don't want to know. Marcus didn't push. Some questions were better left unasked. What do we do with this? That's up to you. We could go to the police. We could go to the media. We go to Michelle. She'll know how to use it. Marcus paused. Ghost, this changes everything. I know. If Wheeler is involved, if this goes that high, they're going to fight back hard. They have to. They're not just protecting Crane anymore. They're protecting themselves. I know that too. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The news van was still there, still waiting. Then we need to be ready. Whatever they throw at us, we need to be ready. We will be brother. We're iron wolves. We don't back down. Marcus ended the call and stared into the darkness. Tomorrow, everything would change. He could feel it. The ground was shifting beneath his feet, and he didn't know where he would land when it stopped. But one thing was certain. He wasn't going to stop until Victoria Crane and everyone who protected her faced justice. The knock came at midnight. Marcus was still awake, going over the documents Ghost had sent. He'd been reading for hours, piecing together the web of lies and cover-ups that had allowed a monster to prey on children for 15 years. The knock was soft, hesitant, not the knock of someone who expected to be welcomed. Marcus grabbed his phone, ready to call Jake, and walked to the door. He looked through the peephole and froze. A woman stood on his porch, 50s, thin, nervous. She kept glancing over her shoulder like she expected someone to be watching. Marcus didn't recognize her. He opened the door. Can I help you? The woman looked at him. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. Her hands were shaking. Mr. Brennan, Marcus Brennan. That's me. I need to talk to you about Victoria Crane. Marcus studied her. She didn't look like a reporter. She didn't look like a lawyer. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Who are you? The woman swallowed hard. My name is Patricia Crane. Victoria is... Victoria is my sister. Marcus didn't move. Your sister? Yes. The sister who's been torturing children for 15 years. Patricia flinched. Yes. And you're here because... Patricia looked at him with desperate eyes. Because I want to help you stop her. Marcus stared at her for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. Come in. Patricia sat at his kitchen table clutching a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. Her hands hadn't stopped shaking since she walked in. I know what you must think of me, she said. I'm her sister. I should have done something years ago. Why didn't you? Fear, denial. I told myself it wasn't as bad as I thought. I told myself the complaints were exaggerated. I told myself, Patricia's voice cracked. I told myself a lot of lies. Marcus sat across from her. What changed? I saw the video, the one from the school yesterday. I saw what she said to your daughter. And I saw... Patricia looked up at him. I saw the truth. For the first time, I really saw it. And I can't pretend anymore. I can't stay silent while she destroys more children. Marcus leaned forward. What do you know? Patricia took a shaky breath. Everything. I know everything. I know about the complaints. I know about the cover-ups. I know about David, my brother-in-law, and how he's been protecting her. She paused. And I know about the money. What money? Victoria has been taking payments from parents who complained about her and then changed their minds. Marcus felt ice run down his spine. She's been blackmailing families. Not just her, David too. They work together. A parent complains, David makes it go away, and then Patricia's voice dropped. Then they suggest a donation to the school district's discretionary fund, a fund that David controls. How much are we talking about? Over the years, hundreds of thousands, maybe more. Patricia looked at him with haunted eyes. They've turned child abuse into a business, Mr. Brennan, and I've been watching it happen for years. Marcus sat back. His mind was reeling. This was bigger than he'd imagined. Much bigger. Not just abuse, not just cover-ups. Systematic extortion, criminal conspiracy. Do you have proof? I have records, bank statements, emails, names of families who paid. Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. Everything is on here. Marcus took the drive. Why are you giving this to me? Because you're the only one who's ever fought back. You're the only one who's ever made her scared. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. And because I have a granddaughter now. She's 4 years old, and every time I look at her, I think about all the children Victoria has hurt, all the lives she's destroyed, and I can't let my granddaughter grow up in a world where people like Victoria win. Marcus looked at the flash drive in his hand. You know what this means for you, for your family. I know. Your sister will go to prison, your brother-in-law too. I know. And everyone will know you helped bring them down. Patricia met his gaze. I should have done it years ago. I should have been brave enough to speak up when it might have made a difference. I wasn't. I was weak and scared, and I let children suffer because I didn't want to cause problems. She wiped her eyes. I can't change the past, but I can do something now, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Marcus stood up and extended his hand. Thank you, Patricia. She shook it. Her grip was firmer than he expected. Don't thank me yet, Mr. Brennan. Thank me when it's over. After Patricia left, Marcus sat alone in his kitchen, staring at the flash drive. He thought about everything that had happened in the past 2 days. Walking into that classroom, seeing Lily's face, hearing Mrs. Crane's threats. He thought he was fighting one battle, one teacher, one school, but it was so much bigger than that. This was a system, a network of corruption that had been operating for years, maybe decades. People at the top protecting predators at the bottom, money changing hands to keep victims silent, lives destroyed and covered up like they were nothing. And now, for the first time, someone on the inside was willing to tear it all down. Marcus picked up his phone and called Michelle. She answered on the second ring, her voice groggy with sleep. Marcus, It's 1 in the morning. I know, but you need to come over now. What happened? Marcus looked at the flash drive. Everything just changed. Michelle arrived at 2 in the morning. She walked in looking like she'd thrown on whatever clothes were closest to her bed. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were sharp. This better be worth losing sleep over. Marcus handed her the flash drive. Patricia Crane came to see me tonight. Michelle froze. Patricia Crane, as in Victoria's sister? Yeah. What did she want? To help us destroy her. Michelle stared at him for a long moment. Then she sat down and plugged the flash drive into her laptop. For the next hour, they went through the files together. Bank records, emails, names and dates and dollar amounts, a paper trail that stretched back over a decade. When they finished, Michelle sat back and rubbed her eyes. This is it, she said quietly. This is everything we need. Enough to bring them down. Enough to send them to prison. Michelle looked at him. Victoria Crane, David Wheeler, Hayes, everyone who was involved in this. She shook her head. I've been doing this work for 15 years, Marcus. I've never seen anything like this. What do we do now? We go to the FBI. Marcus blinked. The FBI. This isn't just a local matter anymore. We're talking about systematic extortion, wire fraud, conspiracy to cover up child abuse. These are federal crimes. Michelle closed her laptop. I have a contact at the Nashville field office, someone I trust. I'll reach out first thing in the morning. And until then, we keep this quiet. Nobody knows about Patricia. Nobody knows about the flash drive. If Wheeler finds out we have this, he'll run. Or worse. Worse, Michelle looked at him with serious eyes. People have done terrible things to protect smaller secrets than this. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He thought of Lily sleeping peacefully down the hall. He thought of the news vans outside the reporters waiting for a story. He thought of what desperate people might do when their whole world was about to collapse. I'll be careful. Be more than careful. Be paranoid. Michelle stood up and headed for the door. I'll call you in this morning. Don't talk to anyone until then. Michelle, she turned. Thank you for everything. Michelle smiled tiredly. Thank me when it's over. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat in the chair by Lily's bed, watching her breathe, thinking about everything that had happened, everything that was coming. 3 days ago, he'd been a single father running a motorcycle shop, worried about his daughter, but not knowing why. Now he was at the center of a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of the school district. He had evidence that could send powerful people to prison, and those people knew he was coming for them. What would they do to stop him? The sun came up around 6. Marcus made coffee and checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Jake, 2 from Ghost, 1 from a number he didn't recognize. He called Jake first. Brother, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you all night. Busy. What's going on? Trouble. Hayes is on the news again. He's calling for a press conference at 9 o'clock. Says he's going to address the situation at the school. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. What situation? The situation you created. The gang intimidation. The harassment of a respected educator. Jake's voice was bitter. They're going full attack mode, Stone. And you're the target. Let them. We have something better. What do you mean? I can't talk about it yet, but trust me, everything's about to change. Stone. Just trust me, Jake. I need you to keep the brothers calm. No more shows of force. No confrontations. Let them think they're winning. For how long? Until I tell you otherwise. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I trust you, brother. You know that. But whatever you're planning, it better be good. It is. Marcus hung up and dialed the unknown number. A woman answered. Mr. Brennan. Who is this? My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm a reporter with the Tennessee Tribune. I was hoping you'd be willing to talk about what happened at Pinewood Elementary. Marcus almost hung up. Michelle had told him not to talk to anyone, but something in the woman's voice made him pause. Why should I talk to you? Because I've been investigating Victoria Crane for 2 years, because I have sources inside the school district who've been feeding me information, and because I think you and I want the same thing. Marcus hesitated. What's that? The truth and justice for the children she's hurt. Marcus thought about it. A reporter could be useful. A reporter could put pressure on Wheeler before the FBI even got involved. But a reporter could also blow everything wide open before they were ready. I can't talk right now, but give me 24 hours. Things are moving fast. How fast? Fast enough that by tomorrow you're going to have the biggest story of your career. Sarah Mitchell was quiet. Then she said 24 hours. But Mr. Brennan, don't make me wait longer than that. I won't. He hung up and looked at the clock. 7:30. Michelle would be making her call to the FBI soon. Hayes's press conference was at 9. The countdown had begun. Hayes's press conference was a masterclass in manipulation. Marcus watched it on TV. His fists clenched, his jaw tight with rage. Hayes stood behind a podium with the Pinewood Elementary logo flanked by two people Marcus had never seen before. Board members, probably. Behind them, a banner read, "Protecting our children, protecting our community." The irony was suffocating. I want to start by addressing the events of yesterday morning. Hayes began, his voice smooth and practiced. As many of you have seen, our school was subjected to an organized act of intimidation by members of a local motorcycle gang. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Jake. "You watching this garbage?" Hayes continued. "Let me be clear. Our number one priority is the safety and well-being of our students. We will not allow anyone, regardless of who they are or what they represent, to threaten that safety." Another text from Jake. "I'm going to be sick." In response to yesterday's events, we have filed for a restraining order against Marcus Brennan and any members of his organization. Additionally, we are cooperating with local law enforcement to determine whether criminal charges are warranted. Marcus stopped breathing. Criminal charges. They were actually going through with it. They were going to try to make him the criminal while Victoria Crane walked free. Furthermore, Hayes said, "We want to address the malicious accusations being made against Mrs. Victoria Crane, a beloved educator with 15 years of exemplary service. These accusations are completely unfounded and appear to be part of a coordinated harassment campaign." Beloved educator, exemplary service. Marcus wanted to throw something at the TV. "Mrs. Crane will not be commenting at this time, as she has been advised by counsel. However, I want to assure our community that she has our full support. We stand behind her 100%. The press conference ended with Hayes taking a few softball questions from reporters. Not one of them challenged his narrative. Not one of them asked about the accusations against Crane. Marcus turned off the TV and sat in silence. His phone rang. "Michelle, please tell me you didn't watch that." "I watched it." "Ignore it. It's noise. We have something better." "The FBI. I talked to my contact, Special Agent Dana Torres. She's very interested in what we have. She wants to meet today." "When?" 2 o'clock. Her office in Nashville." Michelle paused. "This is it, Marcus. Once we hand over that evidence, there's no going back. The FBI will open an investigation. Wheeler will know we're coming. Everything gets real very fast." "Good. I want it real." "Are you sure? Because once this starts, they're going to fight back with everything they have. And I mean everything." Marcus thought about Lily, about the look in her eyes when she told him what Mrs. Crane had done, about Rosa Gutierrez's son cutting himself with scissors, about all the children who had suffered in silence. "I'm sure. Then I'll see you at 2. The meeting with Agent Torres was tense. She was a woman in her mid-40s with sharp features and sharper eyes. She listened without interrupting as Michelle laid out the case. The abuse, the cover-ups, the extortion, the conspiracy that reached all the way to the superintendent's office. When Michelle finished, Torres was quiet for a long moment. "You have proof of all this." Michelle handed over the flash drive. "Everything's on here. Bank records, emails, witness statements. And we have Patricia Crane willing to testify." "Patricia Crane, the sister." "Yes, she's the one who brought us the financial records." Torres took the flash drive and turned it over in her hands. "Why would she turn on her own family?" "Guilt," Marcus said. "She's known about this for years and did nothing. She can't live with it anymore." "Can you trust her?" "She came to my house at midnight to hand me evidence that will destroy her sister's life. I think that's about as trustworthy as it gets." Torres nodded slowly. "I'll need to verify everything on here. That will take time." "How much time?" "A few days, maybe a week." A week, Marcus leaned forward. Agent Torres, there are children in that school right now. Every day, that woman is in a classroom. She's hurting more kids. I understand your concern, Mr. Brennan, but I can't move on unverified evidence. If this case falls apart because we rushed it, Victoria Crane walks free and you'll never get another shot. Marcus wanted to argue. Every instinct screamed at him to demand faster action. But he knew Torres was right. This had to be done properly. By the book. Fine, a week, but not a day longer. I'll do my best. Torres stood and shook his hand. In the meantime, keep your head down. Don't give them any ammunition. Everyone keeps telling me that because it's important. You're the face of this fight, Mr. Brennan. If you make a mistake, they'll use it to discredit everything we're doing. Marcus left the FBI office feeling like a bomb that couldn't explode. All this evidence, all this eckiner, and he had to sit on it. Wait, be patient. Patience had never been his strong suit. On the drive home, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Brennan. The voice was female, cold, familiar in a way that made his blood freeze. Mrs. Crane? I see you recognize me. Good. Marcus pulled over to the side of the road. His hands were shaking. What do you want? I want you to understand something, Mr. Brennan. You think you've won. You think you're some kind of hero riding in with your motorcycle gang to save the day. But you haven't won anything. You've just started a war you can't finish. Is that a threat? It's a fact. I've been doing this for 15 years. 15 years of dealing with angry parents and troublesome children. You think you're the first one to try to bring me down? You're not, and you won't be the last. Marcus gripped the phone. The difference is this time, you're going to lose. Victoria Crane laughed. It was a cold, brittle sound. You're so confident, just like all the others. They were confident too. Right up until they realized they couldn't touch me. Her voice dropped. But let me tell you what's going to happen, Mr. Brennan. You're going to drop this crusade. You're going to take your little girl and your motorcycle friends and disappear. And if I don't, what? Silence. Then, have you checked on your sister today? Marcus's blood turned to ice. What? Sarah, isn't it? She works at Oakdale General, night shift in the emergency room. She gets off at 7 in the morning. Usually stops at that coffee shop on 3rd Street before going home. Marcus couldn't breathe. If you touch her, I'm not going to touch anyone, Mr. Brennan, but accidents happen. People get hurt. And when they do, I want you to remember this conversation. The line went dead. Marcus sat in his truck, his heart pounding. His hands shook so badly he could barely dial Sarah's number. She answered on the 3rd ring. Marcus, what's wrong? Where are you? I'm at home. Why? Don't leave. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming over right now. Marcus, you're scaring me. What's going on? Just stay there, please. He drove to Sarah's apartment in 15 minutes. She was waiting at the door when he arrived, her face pale with worry. What happened? Marcus pulled her inside and locked the door behind them. Victoria Crane just called me. What? How did she even get your number? I don't know, but she knows where you work. She knows your schedule. She knows about the coffee shop on 3rd Street. Sarah's face went white. She's been watching me. She's been watching all of us. Marcus. Sarah sat down heavily on the couch. What did we get into? Something bigger than I realized. He told her everything, the flash drive, Patricia's confession, the FBI meeting, and now this Victoria Crane threatening his family. When he finished, Sarah was quiet for a long time. So what do we do? I don't know. You could back off, drop the case, let someone else know. Marcus, I said no, and he looked at her. If I back off now, she wins. And if she wins, she keeps hurting children. Kids like Lily, kids like Carlos Gutierrez, kids who can't defend themselves. But what about us? What about your daughter? That's exactly why I can't stop. What kind of father would I be if I taught Lily that bullies win, that you should run away when things get hard, that it's okay to let monsters hurt people as long as they don't hurt you? Sarah was crying now. I'm scared, Marcus. I know. I'm scared too. He sat down beside her and took her hand. but I'm not going to let her win. I'm not going to let fear control my life. And I'm definitely not going to let some psychopath teacher threaten my family and get away with it. What are you going to do? Marcus thought about it. Crane had made a mistake. She'd called him. She'd threatened Sarah. She'd shown her hand. And that was evidence. I'm going to call Agent Torres, tell her what just happened. And then I'm going to submit them on to make sure Victoria Crane never threatens anyone ever again. The next 3 days were a blur. Agent Torres moved faster than Marcus expected. The phone call from Crane changed everything. Threatening a federal witness, that's what Marcus was now, technically was a crime in itself. It gave the FBI grounds to accelerate their investigation. By Wednesday, they had subpoenas. By Thursday, they had warrants. By Friday, the walls started closing in. Marcus found out about it the same way everyone else did on the morning news. He was making breakfast for Lily when Jake called. Turn on Channel 4. Now. Marcus grabbed the remote and flipped to the local news. What he saw made him drop the spatula. FBI agents were walking out of the school district offices in downtown Oakdale. They were carrying boxes. Dozens of boxes, files and computers, and anything that wasn't nailed down. The news anchor was talking over the footage. Unprecedented early morning raid on the Oakdale School District administrative building. Sources tell us this is part of a federal investigation into allegations of corruption, fraud, and systematic cover-ups involving multiple district officials. Damn. Marcus watched as David Wheeler was led out of the building. He wasn't in handcuffs, not yet, but his face was the color of ash. Daddy, what's happening? Lily had wandered into the living room, still in her pajamas. Marcus turned off the TV. Nothing, baby, just grown-up stuff. Is that the school? Yeah, but don't worry about it. Lily looked at him with those big, serious eyes. Is Mrs. Crane in trouble? Marcus knelt down to her level. Yes, sweetheart. Mrs. Crane is in a lot of trouble. Good. Lily's voice was firm. She deserves it. Marcus pulled her into a hug. Yeah, baby, she does. The rest of the day was chaos. Marcus's phone didn't stop ringing. Reporters, parents, brothers from the club. Everyone wanted to know what was happening, what he knew what came next. He let most of the calls go to voicemail. Michelle called at noon with an update. They found everything. Wheeler's files, Hayes's records, the whole paper trail. It's even worse than we thought. How bad? 23 families, Marcus. 23 families paid money to make complaints disappear. Over 12 years. Marcus felt sick. 23. And those are just the ones who paid. God knows how many others were just intimidated into silence. What about Crane? They haven't arrested her yet. She's lawyered up, but it's only a matter of time. The evidence is overwhelming. When Song, could be today, could be tomorrow, Torres wants to make sure they have everything in order before they move. And Wheeler, he's talking, trying to cut a deal. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. He's going to throw Crane under the bus. Probably, that's how these things work. The people at the top always try to save themselves by giving up the people below them. Will it work? Not this time. There's too much evidence, too many witnesses. Wheeler's going down. They all are. Marcus hung up and sat in silence. 23 families, 12 years. And Victoria Crane had been at the center of all of it. How many children had she destroyed? How many lives had she ruined, and how had she gotten away with it for so long? The answer came later that day. Sarah Mitchell, the reporter from the Tribune, called at 4 o'clock. Mr. Brennan, I've been doing some digging. What did you find? Victoria Crane's history, before Pinewood Elementary, before Oakdale. Marcus felt something prickle at the back of his neck. What about it? She taught at 2 other schools before coming here. One in Memphis, one in Jackson. Both times she left under a cloud of accusations. Both times the accusations were dismissed. Both times she moved on to a new district with a clean record. How is that possible? Because the system is designed to make it easy. When a teacher gets in trouble, it's easier for a district to let them resign quietly and move on than to go through the hassle of firing them. It's called passing the trash. They give a neutral reference, the teacher finds a new job, and the problem becomes someone else's problem. So Crane was doing this before she even came to Oakdale, for at least 10 years before. Maybe longer. Marcus's head was spinning. 23 years. 23 years of this woman preying on children, and every time someone tried to stop her, the system protected her, passed her along, let her keep hurting kids. How many, he asked quietly, how many children did she hurt before she got here? Sarah Mitchell was quiet for a moment. I don't know, I'm still digging. But Mr. Brennan, it could be hundreds. Hundreds. The word echoed in Marcus's mind long after he hung up. Hundreds of children, hundreds of families, hundreds of lives destroyed by one woman in a system that was more interested in protecting itself than protecting kids. And he'd almost been one of them. Lily had almost been one of them. If he hadn't walked into that classroom, if he hadn't seen what was happening, if he hadn't been willing to fight back. How many parents had wanted to fight but couldn't? How many had been scared off by threats, by lawyers, by a system that told them they were crazy, they were overreacting, they were the problem? Marcus thought about Rosa Gutierrez watching her son hurt himself and being told she was imagining things. He thought about all the nameless, faceless families who had suffered in silence because no one would listen. He thought about Lily whispering that she was stupid and worthless and wondering if her mother had left because she was too much trouble. And he made a decision. This wasn't just about Victoria Crane anymore. This wasn't just about one school district or one corrupt superintendent. This was about a system that had been failing children for decades. A system that prioritized adult convenience over child safety. A system that needed to be torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. And Marcus was going to be the one to start that process. He picked up his phone and called Sarah Mitchell back. Miss Mitchell, I'm ready to talk. Now I want to tell my story, all of it. And I want to talk about what needs to change so this never happens again. Mr. Brennan, are you sure once this goes public? I'm sure it's time the world knew the truth. All of it. The arrest came at 7 o'clock that evening. Marcus was watching the news when it happened. Live coverage. FBI agents pulling up to Victoria Crane's house. The front door opening. And there she was, finally in handcuffs. She didn't look like a monster. She looked like a middle-aged woman in a cardigan, blinking in the lights of the news cameras. But Marcus knew what she was, what she'd always been, and now finally everyone else would know too. Lily was already in bed. She didn't see the arrest. Marcus was glad. She'd been through enough. But he watched. He watched every second. He watched them put Victoria Crane in the back of a car. He watched them drive away. He watched the reporters talking about the charges: child abuse, conspiracy, extortion, obstruction of justice. And he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Peace. It wasn't over. Not yet. There would be trials and testimony and probably years of legal battles ahead. But the hardest part was done. The truth was out. The monster was in custody. His phone buzzed. A text from Jake. We did it, brother. Marcus typed back, no, we're just getting started. Because Jake was right. They had won this battle. But the war was far from over. Tomorrow, Sarah Mitchell's story would hit the papers. Tomorrow, the whole country would know what had happened in Oakdale. Tomorrow, the questions would start about how this could have been prevented, about who else was involved, about what needed to change. And Marcus would be there to answer those questions, to tell his story, to fight for every child who had ever been failed by a system that should have protected them. For Lily, for Carlos, for all of them. This was just the beginning. Sarah Mitchell's story hit the Tennessee Tribune at 6 in the morning. By 8, it had been picked up by every major news outlet in the state. By noon, it was national. By evening, Marcus Brennan's face was on every screen in America. The headline read, Biker Father Exposes 23-Year Child Abuse, Cover-Up in Tennessee School District. Marcus watched the coverage from his living room, Lily asleep in his lap, his phone buzzing every 30 seconds with calls he didn't answer. The story had everything. A single father fighting for his daughter, a corrupt system protecting a predator, brave victims coming forward after years of silence, and at the center of it all, one man who refused to back down. Jake called at 9. Brother, you're famous. I don't want to be famous. Too late, CNN just mentioned your name. So did Fox, you're trending on Twitter. Jake paused. How's Lily holding up? Marcus looked down at his daughter. She was curled against his chest, breathing softly, finally at peace. She's okay, better than okay. She smiled today. Really smiled. First time in months. That's all that matters, Stone. Everything else is noise. Yeah. Marcus shifted the phone to his other ear. What about the brothers? How are they handling the attention? Most of them love it. We're getting calls from chapters all over the country. Guys want to know how they can help, how they can do what we did in their communities. And the ones who don't love it, Jake was quiet for a moment. A few are worried. We've got businesses, families. Some of the guys think this attention might bring the wrong kind of scrutiny. Are they right? Probably, but you know what? Nobody's complaining. Not really. We did something good, Stone. We protected kids. That's worth whatever heat comes our way. Marcus nodded even though Jake couldn't see him. Thanks, brother. For what? For standing with me. All of you. I couldn't have done this alone. That's what family's for. The next morning, Marcus got a call from a number he didn't recognize. He almost let it go to voicemail. He'd been doing that all day, but something made him answer. Mr. Brennan, this is Amanda Torres from CNN. Marcus froze. CNN. Yes, sir. I'm a producer for Anderson Cooper 360. We'd like to invite you to appear on the show tonight to tell your story. I already told my story to the Tribune. I know, but this would reach millions of people, Mr. Brennan. Millions of parents who need to hear what you have to say. Millions of families who might be going through the same thing right now. Marcus thought about it. He'd never wanted attention. Never wanted to be a spokesman or a symbol. He just wanted to protect his daughter. But Rosa Gutierrez's words echoed in his mind. I didn't have money for lawyers. I didn't have connections. Who would believe me? How many parents felt that way right now? How many were watching the news, seeing his face, wondering if they could do what he'd done? What time? 8 o'clock Eastern. We can arrange a satellite feed from Nashville. I'll be there. The interview changed everything. Anderson Cooper was professional, but persistent. He asked about Lily, about Mrs. Crane, about the moment Marcus decided to fight back. And then he asked the question that mattered most. Mr. Brennan, what would you say to other parents out there who might be in a similar situation? Parents who suspect their children are being mistreated but don't know what to do. Marcus looked directly into the camera. I'd say trust your instincts. You know your child better than anyone. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone tell you you're overreacting. Don't let anyone make you feel crazy for protecting your kid. But what if they don't have the resources you had? What if they can't afford lawyers or don't have a community to support them? Then they find one, they reach out, they don't give up. Marcus leaned forward. Look, I'm just a mechanic who rides motorcycles. I'm not rich, I'm not connected, I'm not special. But I refuse to accept that my daughter's suffering is normal. And when I started looking for allies, I found them everywhere. What do you mean? I mean Rosa Gutierrez, whose son was so broken he tried to hurt himself. I mean the other parents who'd been silenced for years and were finally ready to speak. I mean my sister who dropped everything to help. I mean 153 bikers who showed up at that school because they believe children deserve better. Marcus paused. You're never as alone as they want you to think. That's what these predators count on: isolation. Making you feel like you're the only one, but you're not. There are people who will stand with you. You just have to find them. The interview went viral. Within 48 hours, Marcus had received over 10,000 messages, emails, social media posts, letters forwarded through the club, parents from every state in the country sharing their own stories, asking for advice, thanking him for giving them hope. He read as many as he could. The stories broke his heart. Children suffering in silence. Parents fighting systems that didn't care. Administrators more interested in protecting reputations than protecting kids. It was everywhere. In every state, every district, every school, a nationwide epidemic of institutional failure. And Marcus realized something that changed his perspective completely. What happened in Oakdale wasn't unique. It wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a much larger problem, a system that had lost sight of its purpose. He called Michelle. I need to do more. More than what you've already done, more than anyone expected. It's not enough. There are thousands of families out there going through what we went through. They need help, real help. What are you thinking? Marcus had been up all night reading messages, thinking. The answer had come to him around 3 in the morning. A foundation, a nonprofit, something that helps parents fight for their children. Legal resources, counseling, community organizing. A network of people who can support families when they're up against systems that don't want to change. Michelle was quiet for a moment. That's a big undertaking. I know. You'd need funding, staff, a whole infrastructure. I know. And you'd be putting yourself out there permanently. No more going back to a quiet life. Marcus thought about Lily, about the smile on her face this morning, about the nightmare she'd lived through and the thousands of children still living through their own nightmares. I don't want a quiet life. I want to make sure what happened to Lily never happens to another kid if I can help it. Michelle was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "Okay, let's do it." 2 weeks later, Victoria Crane's preliminary hearing began. Marcus was there, front row. He wanted her to see him, wanted her to know that the man she tried to destroy was still standing. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, victims' families, community members who wanted to witness justice being served. Victoria Crane sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, her hair limp, her face pale. She looked nothing like the confident, cruel woman who had terrorized Lily for months. She looked small, broken, afraid, good. The prosecutor laid out the charges: 23 counts of child abuse, 15 counts of extortion, multiple counts of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, emails, testimony from over 30 witnesses, including Patricia Crane, Victoria's own sister. When Patricia took the stand, Victoria's face contorted with rage. "You're lying," she screamed, jumping to her feet. "You're all lying. I dedicated my life to those children. I loved them." The judge banged his gavel. "Miss Crane, you will sit down and remain silent, or you will be removed from this courtroom. This is a witch hunt. They're destroying me because I dared to hold children accountable, because I refused to coddle them like everyone else." 2 bailiffs moved toward her. Her lawyer grabbed her arm, whispering urgently. Victoria shook him off. Her eyes found Marcus in the gallery. She spat. "You did this. You and your gang of thugs. You're the real criminals. You're the ones who should be on trial." Marcus didn't flinch, didn't look away. He just held her gaze steady and unblinking. Victoria's face twisted. "You think you've won? You haven't won anything, and I'll be out of here in a year, and when I am..." The bailiffs grabbed her arms and dragged her toward the door. Her screams echoed through the courtroom. "You can't do this to me. I'm a teacher. I'm a respected educator. I've given my life to those children." The door slammed shut behind her. The courtroom was silent. The judge looked at the stunned spectators, then at the prosecutor. "We'll take a 15-minute recess." Outside the courtroom, Rosa Gutierrez found Marcus. She was crying, but her eyes were fierce. "I never thought I'd see this day. Never thought anyone would believe us." Marcus took her hand. "I believed you." "I know. That's why we're here." "How's Carlos doing?" Rosa's face softened. "He watched the news last night. Saw Mrs. Crane being taken away in handcuffs. You know what he said?" "What?" "He said, 'Mom, does this mean I'm not bad anymore?' And I said, 'Baby, you were never bad. She was the bad one. And now everyone knows it.'" Rosa's voice broke. "He slept through the night for the first time in 3 years. Marcus felt his throat tighten. "That's all I ever wanted, for the kids to know it wasn't their fault. They know now because of you." More families approached. Parents Marcus had never met, introducing themselves, sharing stories, expressing gratitude. A father from Memphis whose daughter had been in Crane's class 8 years ago before she moved to Oakdale. He'd tried to file a complaint back then, been told he was overreacting. A mother from Jackson whose son still had nightmares about the teacher who'd called him worthless every day for a year. A grandfather who'd raised his granddaughter alone after her parents died, only to watch her withdraw into herself under Crane's abuse. Story Fister, or after story, after person, after face. Years of pain finally being acknowledged. And they all said the same thing. "Thank you for fighting. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for showing us we weren't crazy." That evening, Marcus got a call from Agent Torres. "I thought you'd want to know. David Wheeler took a plea deal." Marcus gripped the phone. "What kind of deal?" He's cooperating fully, testifying against Crane, providing documentation of every cover-up he was involved in. Torres paused. He'll serve 5 years, probably out in 3 with good behavior. That's it. 3 years for destroying dozens of lives. I know it doesn't feel like justice, but his testimony is going to have to bury Crane, and it's going to help us identify other educators who were protected by the same system. Other educators? Wheeler wasn't just protecting Crane, he was protecting a network. Teachers across the district who'd been accused of misconduct and quietly shuffled around. We're looking at half a dozen cases that were buried over the past decade. Marcus felt sick. How deep does this go? Deep, but we're going to clean it out. Every last one of them. And Hayes, arrested this afternoon, he's facing charges of conspiracy obstruction and falsifying official documents. Torres's voice was grim. He's not getting a deal. The judge made it that clear. Some good news, at least. What about Crane? When does the actual trial start? Prosecutors aiming for early March, 4 months from now. 4 months. I know it seems like a long time, but we need to build an airtight case. We're not giving her any room to wriggle out of this. Marcus hung up and sat in the growing darkness. 4 months. 4 months of waiting. 4 months of Victoria Crane sitting in a cell thinking about what she'd done. Or more likely thinking about how unfair it all was, how she was the victim, how everyone had conspired against her. People like Crane never saw themselves as monsters. They always found ways to justify their cruelty, to blame their victims, to rewrite history so they were the heroes of their own stories. But it didn't matter what she thought. It mattered what the jury thought. And the jury would hear the truth, all of it. Lily came into the room holding her stuffed rabbit. "Daddy, are you okay?" Marcus pulled her onto his lap. "Yeah, baby girl, I'm okay." "You look sad." "Not sad, just thinking." "About what?" "About how proud I am of you." Lily looked up at him with curious eyes. "Why him?" "Because you were brave. When Mrs. Crane was mean to you, you didn't let her break you. And when I asked you to tell me the truth, you did, even though you were scared. That takes courage, Lily. More courage than most grown-ups have." Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Mrs. Crane told me I was weak. She said I cried too much and I needed to toughen up." "Mrs. Crane was wrong about a lot of things." "I know." Lily snuggled closer. "Daddy, yeah. Can I help?" "Help with what?" "With the other kids, the ones who were hurt like me." Lily looked up at him. "You're doing that foundation thing, right? To help families." Marcus blinked. He hadn't realized Lily knew about that. "How do you know about that?" "Aunt Sarah told me. She said you're going to help lots of kids who don't have daddies to fight for them, and that's the plan?" "Can I help? I could tell them it gets better. I could tell them they're not stupid or worthless, even if someone says they are." Marcus felt his heart swell. His 7-year-old daughter, who had been through hell, wanted to help other kids going through the same thing. "Yeah, baby, you can definitely help." Lily smiled, a real smile, the kind he'd missed for so long. "Good, because I want to. I want to make sure no one feels as bad as I did." 3 weeks later, Marcus officially launched the Shields for the Small Foundation. The press conference was held at the Iron Wolves Clubhouse. Not exactly traditional, but nothing about this story had been traditional. Over 200 people showed up. Parents, teachers, social workers, reporters, community members who wanted to be part of something meaningful. And standing behind Marcus, wearing their cuts with pride, were 153 Iron Wolves. Marcus stepped up to the microphone. 3 months ago, I walked into my daughter's classroom and saw something that changed my life. I saw a child being broken by someone who was supposed to protect her. And I made a choice. I chose to fight. He looked out at the crowd. I didn't fight alone. I had my brothers and sisters in the Iron Wolves. I had an incredible lawyer named Michelle Chen. I had Agent Dana Torres from the FBI. I had parents like Rosa Gutierrez who'd been waiting years for someone to believe them. He paused. But I know there are families out there who don't have those resources. Parents who are fighting alone against systems that don't want to change. Kids who are suffering in silence because they don't think anyone will listen. Marcus held up a folder. "This is what we've put together. A network of lawyers who volunteered to help families pro bono. therapists who specialize in childhood trauma, advocates who know how to navigate school systems and hold them accountable, and most importantly, a community of parents who've been through this and come out the other side. He set down the folder. Shields for the Small isn't about me. It's not about the Iron Wolves. It's about every child who deserves better than what Lily got. It's about every parent who's been told they're overreacting, that they're imagining things, that they should just trust the system. His voice hardened. The system failed. Over and over again, for years, the system failed. And when the system fails, regular people have to step up. That's what we're doing. That's what this foundation is about. He looked directly into the cameras. So if you're out there right now and your child is suffering and you don't know what to do, reach out. We're here. We believe you, and we will fight with you. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, Michelle pulled Marcus aside. That was quite a speech. You helped write it. I gave you bullet points. You made it real. She smiled. The donations are already coming in. We've raised over $50,000 in the last hour. Seriously, people want to help Marcus. You've given them a way to do it. Jake walked up grinning. Brother, you just started a movement. I didn't start anything. I just refused to shut up. Same difference. Jake clapped him on the shoulder. Elena would be proud. Marcus felt the familiar ache at the mention of his late wife's name. But for once, it wasn't all pain. There was warmth there too. Pride. Yeah, he said softly. I think she would be. The trial began on March the 3rd. Victoria Crane pleaded not guilty to all charges. Her lawyer argued that she was a dedicated educator who had been unfairly targeted by a vindictive parent and a sensationalist media. The prosecution disagreed. Over the next 3 weeks, witness after witness took the stand. Children who had been in Crane's classes, parents who had tried to complain and been shut down, teachers who had witnessed abuse and been afraid to speak up. Patricia Crane testified for 2 days. She described her sister's cruelty in devastating detail. The way Victoria talked about her students at family gatherings, mocking them, calling them stupid, bragging about making them cry. She enjoyed it, Patricia said, her voice breaking. She actually enjoyed making children suffer. She thought it made her powerful. Rosa Gutierrez testified about Carlos, about finding him with scissors in the bathroom, about the years of therapy, about the nightmares that still hadn't stopped. And then it was Marcus's turn. He walked to the witness line, feeling Victoria Crane's eyes boring into him. She looked older than she had at the preliminary hearing, more haggard, but the hatred in her gaze was undimmed. The prosecutor guided him through his testimony. The morning Lily told him the truth, the moment he walked into the classroom, the threats Crane had made when she called his phone, and then the defense attorney stood up for cross-examination. Mr. Brennan, isn't it true that you have a criminal record? I was arrested once, 20 years ago, for a bar fight. Charges were dropped. But you were arrested. I was 23 years old and someone swung at my friend. I defended him. Is that relevant to what Victoria Crane did to my daughter? The lawyer ignored the question. You're the president of a motorcycle gang, correct? Motorcycle club, not gang. A club that has been investigated for criminal activity on multiple occasions. Investigated and never charged, because we don't do anything illegal. Marcus leaned forward. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to make this about me, about my tattoos and my motorcycle in my club. But this isn't about me. This is about a woman who spent 15 years torturing children and the system that let her get away with it. Mr. Brennan, you want to know what kind of man I am? I'm the kind of man who shows up when his daughter needs him. I'm the kind of man who fights for kids who can't fight for themselves. I'm the kind of man who doesn't back down when powerful people try to silence him. He looked at Victoria Crane. What kind of person is your client? The defense attorney tried to regain control. Mr. Brennan, please just answer the questions. I am answering. You asked about my character. I'm telling you about it. And while we're on the subject, let me tell you about Victoria Crane's character. Objection. She told my daughter she was stupid every day for 3 months. She told her that her mother left because she was too much trouble. She threatened to have Lily taken away from me if she ever told anyone. And she did the same thing to dozens of other children for over 2 decades, while the people who should have stopped her looked the other way. The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Brennan, please confine yourself to answering the questions asked. Marcus took a breath, nodded. Yes, Your Honor. But the damage was done. The jury had heard what they needed to hear. And when Marcus looked at Victoria Crane, he saw something new in her eyes. Fear. The verdict came on April 12th. Guilty. On all counts. Victoria Crane collapsed in her chair when the foreman read the verdict. Her lawyer tried to comfort her, but she pushed him away. This isn't fair, she screamed. I was a good teacher. I cared about those children. You're all going to regret this. The judge set sentencing for May 15th. Crane was remanded into custody pending that date. As the bailiffs led her away, she twisted to look at Marcus one last time. This isn't over, she hissed. You hear me? This isn't over. Marcus watched her go. She was wrong. It was over. At least for her, but for the children she'd hurt, for the families she'd destroyed, for the system that had enabled her for so long, the real work was just beginning. Outside the courthouse, Marcus was mobbed by reporters. Mr. Brennan, how do you feel about the verdict? Mr. Brennan, what's next for the Shields for the Small Foundation? Mr. Brennan, do you have a message for other parents who might be going through something similar? Marcus held up his hand for silence. I feel relieved. I feel grateful to the prosecutors, the FBI, and everyone who worked so hard to bring Victoria Crane to justice. But I also feel sad. Sad for all the children who suffered. Sad for all the years this was allowed to continue. He paused. What's next is what should have been happening all along. Protecting children, holding abusers accountable, making sure that when parents speak up, they're listened to instead of dismissed. He looked into the cameras. And my message to other parents is simple. Don't give up. Don't let them silence you. Don't let them make you feel crazy for protecting your child. You know your kid better than anyone. Trust yourself and know that you're not alone. He turned and walked away. Lily was waiting for him at the bottom of the courthouse steps, holding Sarah's hand. When she saw him, she broke free and ran. Marcus caught her and lifted her into his arms. Is it over, Daddy? Did we win? Marcus looked back at the courthouse, at the reporters, at the Iron Wolves standing guard, at Rosa Gutierrez and the other families hugging each other and crying tears of relief. Yeah, baby girl, we won. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck and squeezed tight. I knew we would, she whispered, because you never give up. Marcus held his daughter close, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. She was right. He never gave up, and he never would, because some things were worth fighting for, and family was the thing worth fighting for most of all. Victoria Crane was sentenced to 47 years in federal prison. Marcus sat in the front row of the courtroom, Lily beside him, holding his hand. She had asked to come. She said she needed to see it end. The judge read the sentence in a voice that carried through the silent room. Mrs. Crane, you have been found guilty of 23 counts of child abuse, 15 counts of extortion, and multiple counts of conspiracy and obstruction of justice. The evidence presented in this trial revealed a pattern of deliberate cruelty spanning over 2 decades. You weaponized your position of trust to inflict lasting psychological damage on the most vulnerable members of our society. Victoria Crane stood at the defense table, her back rigid, her face blank. I have read the victim impact statements. I have listened to the testimony of children whose lives you shattered. I have seen the medical records documenting the trauma you inflicted. The judge's voice hardened. And I have concluded that no sentence can truly repair the damage you have caused. Crane's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. However, this court can ensure that you never harm another child again. Therefore, I sentence you to 47 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for the first 30 years. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Victoria Crane's mask finally cracked, her face contorted with rage. This is outrageous. I'm 62 years old. You're giving me a death sentence. You gave those children life sentences, Mrs. Crane. They will carry the scars of your abuse forever. The judge banged his gavel. Court is adjourned. The bailiffs moved toward Crane. She tried to pull away, her eyes wild. You can't do this. I was a good teacher. I dedicated my life to education. You're destroying everything I worked for. No one responded. As the bailiffs led her past, Marcus Crane stopped. Their eyes met. You think you've won, she hissed, but those children are still broken. They'll always be broken, and nothing you do will ever change that. Marcus stood up slowly. He looked at Victoria Crane, really looked at her, and saw what she truly was. Not a monster, not a demon, just a bitter, cruel woman who had spent her entire life tearing others down because she couldn't stand to see them rise. You're wrong, he said quietly. You broke them, but they're putting themselves back together. And they're going to be stronger than you ever imagined. Crane's face twisted. You're delusional. No, I'm hopeful. That's something you never understood. The bailiffs pulled her away. She screamed curses over her shoulder, but Marcus had already stopped listening. He turned to Lily. Ready to go home? Lily nodded. Her eyes were bright, not with tears but with something else. Relief. Outside the courthouse, the families were waiting. Rosa Gutierrez embraced Marcus so hard he could barely breathe. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for not giving up. Thank Carlos for me, for being brave enough to let you tell his story. Rosa pulled back, tears streaming down her face. He's doing so much better. Last week he tried out for the school basketball team. Can you believe it? After everything he's been through, he's putting himself out there again. That's amazing. It's because of you, because you showed him that the people who hurt him can be stopped. More families approached. Parents Marcus had met during the trial, children who had testified against Crane, social workers and therapists who had helped piece broken lives back together. Patricia Crane was there too, standing apart from the crowd. She looked exhausted, hollow. Marcus walked over to her. How are you holding up? Patricia shook her head. I don't know. Part of me feels relieved. Part of me feels guilty. Part of me feels like I should have done something 20 years ago and none of this would have happened. You did something now. That matters. Does it? My sister is going to die in prison. My family is destroyed. And I keep thinking, if I'd just been braver, if I'd just spoken up sooner. You spoke up when it counted. That took courage. Patricia looked at him with haunted eyes. My nieces won't talk to me. My brother-in-law is in prison. Everyone in my family blames me for ruining Victoria's life. Victoria ruined her own life. You just told the truth. I know, but knowing doesn't make it easier. Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. What are you going to do now? Patricia took a shaky breath. I don't know. Try to make amends, I guess. Try to help repair some of the damage Victoria caused. She looked at Marcus. I was thinking about volunteering with your foundation, if you'd have me. Of course, we could use someone who understands how these cover-ups work from the inside. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. After everything my family did, I didn't think you'd... Your family did terrible things. You didn't. You helped bring them to justice. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. That makes you one of us now. The drive home was quiet. Lily sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, processing everything she'd just witnessed. Marcus didn't push her. He'd learned to let her work through things at her own pace. Finally, she spoke. Daddy. Yay, baby girl. Mrs. Crane said, we're still broken, that we'll always be broken. Marcus felt his chest tighten. She was wrong. But what if she's right? What if there's something wrong with me forever because of what she did? Marcus pulled the truck over to the side of the road. He turned to face his daughter. Lily, look at me. She looked up, her eyes uncertain. What Mrs. Crane did to you was terrible. It hurt you, and some of that hurt might take a long time to heal. Marcus took her hand. But that doesn't mean you're broken. That means you're healing. There's a difference, Abate. What's the difference? Broken means something's ruined forever. Healing means something got hurt, but it's getting better. He squeezed her hand. You're getting better, Lily, every day. I see it. Your therapist sees it. Even your teachers see it. Mrs. Patterson says I'm doing great in class. That's because you are. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, sometimes I still hear Mrs. Crane's voice in my head when I'm trying to answer a question or when I make a mistake. I hear her calling me stupid. Marcus felt his heart break all over again. What do you do when that happens? I try to remember what you told me, that she's a liar, that everything she said was wrong. Does it help? Lily thought about it. Sometimes, not always, but more than it used to. That's progress, baby girl. That's healing. Lily looked at him with those big, serious eyes. Daddy, do you think I'll ever stop hearing her voice completely? Marcus wanted to say yes, wanted to promise that one day the pain would disappear entirely, but he'd learned not to make promises he couldn't keep. I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe. Maybe not. But I know that her voice will get quieter. I know that your voice will get louder. And I know that one day you'll be so strong that even if you hear her, you won't believe her anymore. Lily nodded slowly. I want to be that strong. You're already on your way. She leaned across the seat and hugged him. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby girl. More than anything. 6 months later, the Shields for the small foundation had helped over 200 families. Marcus stood in the new office space, a converted warehouse near the shop, looking at the wall of photos. Families they'd helped, children who were healing, parents who'd found their voice. Michelle walked in carrying a stack of files. We've got 3 new cases this week, 1 in Nashville, 2 in Memphis. Same pattern? Similar. Teachers getting away with because the administration doesn't want to deal with it. Parents being told they're overreacting. Michelle set down the files. But now they're calling us. They're not staying silent anymore. That's the goal. How's Lily doing? Marcus smiled. She's good, really good. She made the honor roll last semester. And she's got this group of friends who are inseparable. They have sleepovers every weekend. That's wonderful. Last month, she asked if she could start speaking to other kids who've gone through what she went through, sharing her story to help them feel less alone. Michelle raised an eyebrow. What did you say? I said she should think about it carefully, that it's a big responsibility, that she doesn't have to share her pain with anyone if she doesn't want to. And she thought about it for a whole week. Then she came to me and said, Daddy, when I was scared, I wish someone understood. I want to be that person for other kids. Michelle's eyes softened. She's incredible. She's her mother's daughter. Jake walked in covered in grease from the shop. Stone, got a minute? What's up? There's someone here to see you. Says it's important. Marcus followed Jake to the front of the building. A man was waiting there. Tall, gray-haired, wearing an expensive suit that looked out of place in a motorcycle shop. Mr. Brennan, I'm Thomas Reynolds. I'm with the governor's office. Marcus stopped. The governor's office? Yes, sir. Governor Williams has been following your story. The foundation you've built. The work you're doing. Reynolds smiled. He'd like to meet with you. Me, why? He's proposing legislation to reform how schools handle abuse allegations, mandatory reporting requirements, independent oversight boards, protections for whistleblowers. Reynolds handed Marcus a folder. He wants you to testify before the state legislature. Share your story. Help build support for the bill. Marcus stared at the folder. I'm a mechanic who rides motorcycles. What do I know about legislation? You know what happens when the system fails. You know what it takes to fight back. And you know how to make people listen. Reynolds leaned in. Governor Williams believes your voice could make the difference. Will you meet with him? Marcus thought about Victoria Crane sitting in prison, about the system that had protected her for 2 decades, about all the children who had suffered because nobody wanted to make waves. Yeah, he said, I'll meet with him. The meeting with Governor Williams happened 2 weeks later. Marcus wore a button-down shirt instead of his usual t-shirt, but he refused to take off his Iron Wolves ring. Some parts of himself weren't negotiable. The governor's office was intimidating. Marble floors, high ceilings, portraits of men in suits who had probably never gotten their hands dirty in their lives. But Governor Williams surprised him. He was a stocky man in his 60s with a firm handshake and a no-nonsense manner. Mr. Brennan, thanks for coming. Thanks for inviting me. They sat in leather chairs facing each other. I'll get straight to the point, Williams said. I've been in politics for 30 years. I've seen a lot of scandals come and go. But what happened in Oakdale got my attention. Not just the abuse that's tragically common. What got my attention was what you did about it. I just fought for my daughter. You did more than that. You built a movement. You showed families they could fight back. And you did it without violence, without threats, without becoming the villain they wanted to paint you as. Williams leaned forward. That takes discipline, strategic thinking, the kind of leadership that's rare anywhere, let alone from someone outside the political establishment. I had help, a lot of it. Good leaders always do. Williams pulled out a document. This is the Child Protection Reform Act. I've been trying to pass something like this for a decade, but the teachers' unions push back. The school boards push back. Everyone who benefits from the current system pushes back. So what's different now? You are. Your story is on every news channel in the country. You've got public sympathy. You've got credibility. Williams slid the document across the table. I want you to be the face of this legislation. Testify before the legislature. Share what happened to Lily. Show them why this matters. Marcus picked up the document, read through the provisions, mandatory reporting requirements, anonymous tip lines, independent review boards, protections for parents who spoke up, everything he'd been fighting for. What do you need from me? Just your story and your honesty. Williams smiled. Think you can handle that? Marcus thought about Lily, about Rosa Gutierrez, about all the families who had reached out to the foundation desperate for help. Yeah, I can handle that. The legislative hearing was packed. Marcus sat at a long table facing a panel of state senators. Behind him, the gallery was filled with families, some who had been helped by the foundation, others who were still fighting their own battles. Lily was there too, sitting in the front row with Sarah, watching her father with pride in her eyes. The committee chair, Senator Margaret Chen, called the hearing to order. Mr. Brennan, thank you for joining us today. Please share your testimony. Marcus leaned into the microphone. 9 months ago, I walked into my daughter's classroom and saw something that changed my life. Her teacher was standing over her, telling her she was stupid, worthless, a burden. My 7-year-old daughter was trembling, crying, too scared to defend herself. The room was silent. What I didn't know was that this had been happening for 3 months. 3 months of psychological torture. 3 months of threats designed to keep my daughter silent. 3 months of a system that was supposed to protect her failing at every level. He paused. I found out later that Victoria Crane had been doing this for over 20 years. 20 years of destroying children. 20 years of cover-ups and quiet resignations and passing the problem to the next school district. 20 years of parents being told they were overreacting, that their children were lying, that they should just trust the system. His voice hardened. The system didn't deserve their trust. It still doesn't. That's why we're here. He pulled out a stack of papers. I've received over 10,000 messages from parents across this country. 10,000 families with stories similar to mine. Children being abused by teachers, coaches, administrators. Parents being silenced, threatened, ignored. Systems protecting adults instead of kids. He set down the papers. This bill won't fix everything, I know that. But it's a start. It's a way of saying that children matter more than convenience. That truth matters more than reputation. That when a parent says something is wrong, we listen instead of dismiss. Senator Chen nodded. Thank you, Mr. Brennan. The committee may have some questions. The questions went on for 2 hours. Some senators were supportive, others were skeptical. A few tried to paint Marcus as a radical, a vigilante, a threat to the education system. Marcus answered every question calmly and honestly. When a senator from the rural district suggested that the bill was too expensive, Marcus pulled out another stack of papers. These are the medical bills from Carlos Gutierrez, an 8-year-old boy who was so traumatized by Victoria Crane that he tried to hurt himself with scissors. His family has spent over $200,000 on therapy medication and specialized education. That's the cost of not protecting children. How does that compare to your budget concerns? The senator had no response. When another senator suggested that the bill would make it too easy for parents to file false accusations, Marcus looked at her steadily. My daughter was terrified to tell me what was happening because Victoria Crane convinced her that no one would believe her. That's how abuse thrives in silence. This bill isn't about making false accusations easier. It's about making true accusations possible. The hearing ended with a vote. The bill passed the committee 8-2. It would go to the full legislature next month. Governor Williams shook Marcus's hand on the steps of the Capitol building. You did good in there. I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. Williams looked at the crowd of supporters behind them. You know this is just the beginning, right? Even if the bill passes, implementation will be a fight. There will be pushback, resistance, people who want to go back to the way things were. I know. And you're ready for that. Marcus looked at Lily standing with Sarah waving at him. I've been ready since the day I walked into that classroom. The bill passed the full legislature 6 weeks later. Governor Williams signed it into law at a ceremony in the Capitol Rotunda. Marcus stood beside him along with Rosa Gutierrez, Patricia Crane, Michelle Chen, and representatives from the Iron Wolves. Today we take a stand for the children of Tennessee, Williams said, pen in hand. We declare that their safety matters more than institutional convenience, that their voices deserve to be heard, that when they cry for help, we will answer. He signed the bill. Applause erupted. Williams turned and handed the pen to Marcus. This belongs to you. Marcus looked at the pen, a simple ballpoint, nothing special. But what it represented was everything. It belongs to all of us. That evening, Marcus sat on the porch of his house watching the sun set. Jake pulled up on his motorcycle and walked over. Hell of a day, brother. Hell of a year. Jake sat down beside him. You know, when you first told me what was happening with Lily, I never imagined it would lead to all of this, a foundation, legislation, you shaking hands with the governor. Neither did I. Any regret? Marcus thought about it. The exhaustion, the threats, the moments of doubt when he wondered if he was in over his head. No, not one. Not even the death threats, the harassment, the way Crane's supporters tried to destroy your reputation. Especially not those. They showed me what we were up against, made me fight harder. Jake nodded. What's next? The foundation's expanding. We've got chapters starting in 3 other states. Michelle's training new advocates. Rosa's speaking at conferences sharing Carlos's story. Marcus paused. And Lily, how is she? She's good, really good. Marcus felt a warmth in his chest. Last week she spoke to a group of kids who'd been through similar situations, told them her story, answered their questions, helped them feel less alone. She's becoming quite the little advocate. She's becoming her own person. Strong, confident, not afraid to use her voice. Jake smiled, just like her old man. Better than her old man. They sat in comfortable silence watching the last rays of sunlight fade. You know, Jake said finally, when we started the Iron Wolves, we talked about what it meant to be a brotherhood, to stand together, to protect each other. I remember. But we never talked about this, about standing up for people outside the club, about using what we have to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. Maybe we should have. Maybe, but we're doing it now. Jake looked at him. Because of you. Because you showed us what it looks like when you don't back down. Marcus shook his head. I didn't show anyone anything. I just did what any father would do. That's where you're wrong, brother. Most fathers would have complained, would have filed paperwork, would have accepted it when the system told them nothing could be done. Jake's voice was serious. You refused to accept it. You found another way. And you inspired everyone around you to do the same. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't know what to say. The screen door opened behind them. Lily walked out holding 2 glasses of lemonade. Aunt Sarah said you might be thirsty. Marcus took a glass. Thanks, baby girl. Lily handed the other to Jake, then sat down on the porch steps. Daddy? Yeah. I was thinking about what happened, about everything from the beginning until now. What about it? Lily looked up at the darkening sky. I was so scared when it was happening. Every day felt like forever. I thought it would never end. I know, sweetheart. But now when I look back, it seems so small, like a bad dream that I woke up from. She turned to look at him. Is that weird? No, that's healing. I think so too. Lily was quiet for a moment. Daddy, do you think Mrs. Crane ever thinks about us, about what she did? Marcus considered the question. Victoria Crane, sitting in her cell, surrounded by walls, facing the rest of her life in prison. I don't know, maybe. I hope she does, not because I want her to feel bad, but because, Lily paused searching for words, because I want her to understand, to really understand what she did and why it was wrong. That would take a lot of self-reflection. I'm not sure she's capable of it. Maybe not, but I hope she tries. Lily looked at him with those wise eyes, because if she never understands, then she never really changes. And even though she can't hurt anyone anymore, she'll always be the same person inside. The same angry, mean person. Marcus felt a swell of pride. His 7-year-old daughter, no 8 now, he reminded himself, was showing more wisdom than most adults he knew. "When did you get so smart?" Lily grinned. "I learned from you." "Nah, you learned from your mom." "Maybe both." Jake stood up stretching. "I should head out. Early day tomorrow." "Thanks for coming by." "Any time, brother." Jake ruffled Lily's hair. "Take care of your old man, kid. He needs it." "I will." Jake rode off into the night. The sound of his motorcycle faded into the distance. Lily scooted closer to Marcus and leaned against his arm. "Daddy, yay. I'm glad you walked into my classroom that day." Marcus put his arm around her. "Me too, baby girl. If you just believed Mrs. Crane, I don't know what would have happened. I would never have believed her. Not about you. How did you know? How did you know something was wrong when I couldn't even tell you?" Marcus thought about it. The nightmares, the weight loss, the way Lily had stopped drawing, stopped laughing, stopped being herself. "Because I know you. I've known you your whole life. And when you changed, I knew it wasn't just you growing up or going through a phase. I knew something was hurting you. But the school said I was fine. Mrs. Crane said I was fine. They were wrong, and deep down I knew they were wrong." He squeezed her shoulder. "Parents know their children, Lily. Not perfectly, not always, but in the ways that matter. And when something's really wrong, we feel it. Even if we can't explain it." Lily nodded. "I want to be like that. When I grow up. When I have kids." "You will be." "How do you know, Tigwa? Because you already are. When you talk to those other kids, the ones who went through what you went through, you see them, you understand them, you know when they're really okay and when they're just pretending." Marcus smiled. "That's a gift, Lily. Don't ever lose it." "I won't." They sat together in the darkness, father and daughter watching the stars come out. "Daddy?" "Yeah." "Can we get ice cream tomorrow?" Marcus laughed. Some things never changed. "Yeah, baby girl, we can get ice cream tomorrow." 1 year after Victoria Crane's sentencing, Marcus stood in a conference room in Washington, D.C. The room was full of legislators, advocates, educators, and parents from across the country. They had gathered for the first National Child Protection Summit, an event organized by the Shields for the Small Foundation. Marcus stepped up to the podium. 2 years ago, I was a mechanic who rode motorcycles. I didn't know anything about advocacy, didn't know anything about legislation, didn't know anything about building a movement." He looked out at the crowd. "All I knew was that my daughter was hurting, and I wasn't going to stand by and watch." He paused. "What I've learned since then is that I wasn't alone. I was never alone. There were parents all over this country fighting the same fight. Teachers who wanted to do the right thing but were afraid of retaliation. Administrators who knew the system was broken but didn't know how to fix it." He gripped the edges of the podium. "We found each other, we came together, and we started to change things. Not because we were powerful or connected or special, but because we refused to give up. Because we believed that children deserve better. Because we understood that the only way things change is when ordinary people stand up and demand it." He looked at the front row where Lily sat between Sarah and Rosa Gutierrez. "My daughter is here today. She's 9 years old. She's in 3rd grade. She loves reading, playing soccer, and telling really bad jokes." Laughter rippled through the room. "She also survived something no child should ever have to survive. And she came out of it stronger than I ever imagined possible." His voice thickened. "Lily taught me something important. She taught me that healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about refusing to let what happened define you. It's about taking your pain and turning it into purpose." He looked directly at his daughter. "I'm proud of you, baby girl. More than words can say." Lily smiled at him, her eyes bright with tears. Marcus turned back to the audience. "So here's what I want to leave you with. You don't have to be a politician to change policy. You don't have to be a lawyer to fight for justice. You don't have to be a hero to save a child. He leaned forward. You just have to be willing to show up, to stand up, to speak up, even when you're scared, even when everyone tells you it's hopeless, even when the system seems designed to silence you. His voice rang through the room. Because here's what Victoria Crane and people like her don't understand. They think they can break us. They think they can scare us into silence. They think that if they hurt enough children, if they destroy enough families, eventually we'll just give up. He shook his head. They're wrong. We don't give up. We don't back down. We don't accept that our children's suffering is just the way things are. He straightened up, his voice strong. We fight. We organize. We demand better. And we don't stop until every child in this country is safe, until every parent who speaks up is heard, until every system that protects abusers is torn down and rebuilt to protect the children it was always supposed to serve. He looked out at the crowd, the parents, the advocates, the legislators, the allies who had gathered from every corner of the country. That's why we're here. That's why we fight. And that's why no matter what comes next, we will never stop. The applause was thunderous, but Marcus barely heard it. He was looking at Lily, at the smile on her face, at the pride in her eyes. 2 years ago, she had been a broken child, convinced she was worthless. Now she was a beacon of hope for thousands of children like her. And Marcus understood in that moment what everything had been for. Not for revenge, not for recognition, not even for justice. For her, for all of them. For every child who deserved to grow up believing they mattered. That evening, Marcus and Lily walked along the National Mall as the sun set over Washington. Daddy, yeah, I'm glad we did this. Did what? All of it. The foundation, the bill, coming here. Lily looked up at him. I'm glad we didn't give up. Marcus squeezed her hand. We never will. They walked in silence for a while past monuments and memorials, past the symbols of a nation built on the idea that ordinary people could change extraordinary things. Daddy, yeah. Do you think Mom would be proud of us? Marcus felt the familiar ache at the mention of Elena, but it was softer now, warmer. Yeah, baby girl, I think she'd be really proud. I wish she could have seen it. Me too. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I think she did see it, somehow. I think she was watching the whole time. Marcus didn't know if that was true, but he wanted to believe it. I think so too. They reached the Lincoln Memorial as the last light faded from the sky. Lily looked up at the massive statue, her face filled with wonder. He freed the slaves, right? Yeah, he did. Did he have to fight really hard? The hardest fight in American history? Did he ever want to give up? Probably, but he didn't. Lily nodded, processing this. Like us. Yeah, like us. She looked up at him with those serious, wise eyes. Daddy, I want to help more kids, not just the ones we're helping now. I want to help all of them, every kid who's scared and alone and doesn't think anyone will believe them. That's a big goal. I know, but we can do it. You showed me we can do anything if we don't give up. Marcus felt his heart swell with love for this incredible child. Yay, baby girl, we can. Lily smiled the bright, unguarded smile he'd missed for so long during the darkest months. Then let's do it. Together. Marcus knelt down so they were eye to eye. Together, he promised. Always. They hugged there in the shadow of Lincoln father and daughter survivors and fighters ready for whatever came next. Because some battles were worth fighting forever. And protecting the children who couldn't protect themselves, that was the most important battle of all. Marcus had walked into a classroom 2 years ago with nothing but cupcakes and a father's instinct that something was wrong. He'd walked out with a movement, and now standing in the heart of the nation's capital with his daughter's hand in his, he understood something that would stay with him for the rest of his life. You don't have to be powerful to make a difference. You don't have to be perfect to be a hero. You just have to love someone enough to fight for them and never, ever stop.